had bad audio and midis and sloppy.
Wait. Did the MIDI potentially sound like this?
No.
Oh. It
Oh
was a
god.
different MIDI this time, I swear. Or melody, I swear.
It's what they all say, isn't it?
Uh, maybe?
Um, um, t- um, Apple.
Beep.
Um, Beeple.
Beeple.
Yeah, it's just it's
Beeple every day.
no, it's a beeple is like when you have like an Apple wireframe model, right? You cover it with you fill in the wireframe with the polygons, and then you apply, instead of Apple material, B material, and that's just a beeple.
Ew.
It's like okay. Imagine if an apple ate a bee mushroom from Mario Galaxy. That's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Ugh, okay.
And instead of delicious apple on the inside, it's bee
Ugh,
bee
God.
meat.
Ugh.
And I just realized I've
right.
never until this moment thought of the concept of bee meat.
I mean, I've never thought about it for bees, but there was a point in my life where I eventually realized and considered the fact that bugs technically have meat,
Yeah.
which is gross. Although now I'm going to Google this. Let's add this to my list of reasons the NSA might be watching me.
Oh, you should see
because
my
I've Googled
search history at
things
work.
like-
It's
oh my God.
actually, I think we got a new internet provider, so I think I'm carte blanche there.
Oh God. That is not what I was expecting.
What, fat old beefsteaks?
No.
T-bone beefsteaks? Huh?
No. Meat-eating bees.
You're right. That is really
God.
unexpected. Hi, Jobo Fett. How's it
Jesus.
going?
Oh, hey, Jobo.
Well, we're waiting for the mystical time of 6 o'clock to start this thing.
And in the interim, I'm staring at a picture of like a nice, well-done steak with some barbecue sauce on it, a little bit of parsley, and there's just bees next to it.
God, no. Did I ever tell you this one time at work? I was with our boss. We were doing some outside pole lights, right? We take off. Well, I take off one of the bolt covers for the pole light, and there's just a tiny bee's nest inside of it.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Story about one of our coworkers, but yeah, that seems to be a thing that happens a lot, and I'm really glad I don't do service because of that.
Just bees nests in small cramped spaces no one would ever think, except for if they were doing service.
It's worse when it's like a wasp nest.
Yeah, well, yeah, they were wasps. I call them the same thing because they're practically this. I don't think I actually ever see regular bees. Just wasps all the time. Like, I've seen one.
Well, we get yellow jackets here too, which are... It makes things difficult.
Yeah, I bet.
Because as far as I know, yellow jackets aren't actually, like, I don't know. I think that I know there's a bee lookalike that doesn't have an actual stinger or anything like that.
I know there's something called like a Zizix, like an XYZZYX. That's a type of bee. Or maybe it was ZYZZYX.
It was ZYZZ. Oh God, I'm just finding a whole bunch of crazy shit now. Thanks for setting me on that trail.
Yeah, sure, anytime. All right, well, in case anyone in the present-ish is wondering, I was going to have a video out sooner, but I effed the audio up real bad, and we got to do it again. And this is, it's my fault. There's a clog in the pipeline. Also, the console ports are clogs in the pipeline, but less so, I guess. It was. It's not worth explaining at this point, I guess. I haven't posted anything in like almost 3 weeks now. How do you believe that?
Oh shit.
Yeah. Like we hit episode 100, and I'm like, okay, we got to do the thing, and then we did the thing, and then I got around to editing it, and then I only had 2 minutes of audio.
Whoops. So we got to redo that.
Yep.
Oopsie daisy. Oh well.
I'm just ruffling the pages of this paperback copy of Knee Deep in the Dead. Gosh, it's been so long too. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like we go like months between these recordings of the book.
Yeah, we kind of do, huh?
Yeah.
It's like every other season, I feel.
Yeah, which is weird. Well, it's gonna be weird because I have like an extra 6 hours of console ports ready to go in the pipeline like now.
Oh God.
Yeah, PlayStation Doom is really long.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's Doom 1 and 2 mashed together, plus a few extra exclusive levels.
Well, let me find my copy of Flint Taggart's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah. So did we actually decide what fruit he would bring up next?
I think we did, but I don't remember now.
I think it might have been.
It wasn't even fruit.
I think I was going with pumpkin or avocado.
Avocado sounds about right.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh,
Kiwis.
Kiwi. That's right. It was kiwis.
Well, we'll see. I'm trying to remember
I'm fairly certain.
I don't remember what the last fruit was. There were eggs, which are the fruit of chicken loins, but that's stretching it a bit.
Couldn't be tomatoes because I'm sure Flint Taggart thinks they're vegetables.
Well, it doesn't matter what he thinks as long as he mentions it in a metaphor of some sort.
That's true.
Like, he probably doesn't know pumpkins are fruits, but...
Yeah. That's fair. Also, sorry for the weird noises. I'm eating... I don't remember what they're called, but it's basically like smoothie-fied strawberry, but that then you freeze it and then you cover it in chocolate and then you freeze it again.
Right.
So it's like a frozen strawberry smoothie chocolate ball thing. Yeah. It's good. Actually, no, it's a dib, but there's strawberry instead of ice cream. That's what it is.
Okay. Strawberries.
Dibberries.
Berries.
Berries.
Dib.
All right. Then, all right. Doom, knee deep in the dead, _meta.xml, and doom.txt. Oh, this is unformatted. I forgot about that. Oh, gosh.
Uh-oh.
Hey, I wonder if I can convert to PDF.
That would be interesting.
Sweet. Oh my god, it's doing it. Is this going to work?
I wonder if I could convert this paperback book to PDF. Paperback. Oh, I don't know if I ever brought this up, but there's a sticker.
Oh my god, this looks like it's actually in book format.
What the heck?
Holy shit.
Huh.
It worked. It flippity flapjack worked.
So I ordered this book online, and I got it for like $1, right? I got ripped off. The sticker says 10 cents.
What?
Yeah, there's a sticker on it that says 10 cents. and apparently it's from a place called Thrift Books. I don't know. I just ordered it off of Amazon.
Wow. So you paid 90 cents more than you could have for the
Yep.
Doom novella.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess it's a fair deal given shipping and whatnot. I
Yeah,
guess.
but I mean, considering what we've read so far, could you label that as like robbery?
I don't know. I've been
Like
having fun with it.
Like that's 10 cents short of
Look.
like a soda from the soda machine. And you know.
All right. Well, get this. Apparently, the third novel is really rare. Also, they get worse as time goes on. But
I mean, I knew that part, but
you know, as I was searching for it, the cheapest one I initially found was like for $80. I eventually found one that was for like $5.
of course you did.
Yeah. I think I might have to check my Amazon history. I don't even remember if I bought it from Amazon.
Okay, $80 for an incredibly rare book. That makes sense.
I wasn't gonna buy that though. I was just gonna find a PDF or something.
Especially not the Doom novels, which we were already forewarned are probably not the best pieces of literature you'll ever come across, to put it politely.
Right. All right. Are we ready to get this ball rolling, or?
That depends. Is the ball a sphere, or a three-dimensional octagonal shape, or just a cube? Or is it a two-dimensional circle?
It's a one-dimensional line.
Well, that's gonna be kind of hard. I mean, we could technically bend the line.
Then it would be 2D. It's not. No. And
then we would be bending one-dimensional space, is what I'm implying.
Yeah.
It would still be one-dimensional, but it would be literally warping.
All right,
it's deformed.
It's that then.
Okay.
You win.
All right.
I concede.
I'm okay with this.
So can we roll it or not?
Yes. All right. Let's go. Actually, wait. I lied. I should probably get water before we begin.
Good idea.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going to totally not get a water and probably get soda. But I'm going to get a drink of some kind. If you'll all wait just a moment longer.
I need a drink. Two hours, 22 minutes. Yep.
Oh yes, 2 hours, 22 minutes of Flynn Taggart adventures. You know it's going to be fun.
Well, I'll have some bits to say about Super Nintendo Doom, so...
All right, at least an hour and a half of Flynn Taggart.
Well, I probably
Gonna
won't
be
have that
fun.
much to say about Super Nintendo Doom.
All right, at least 2 hours of Flynn Taggart. Gonna be fun. Oh,
Well, alright.
yeah. Let's get this show on something. I don't know.
On ice. On the rocks.
Yeah. Wait, I probably have a copy of this I should be syncing up, huh?
Might be a good idea.
Nah. I'll just watch the stream and be horribly disoriented the whole time, listening to myself, reading, listening to you talking intermittently, and also listening to the video that I'm watching. And oh god, yeah, I'm just gonna bring up SNES.
Yeah, alright.
All right, okay. You ready?
Yes.
All right, then on go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back! 20 Years of Doom, I'm Temin.
Hey, I'm Red.
Today we're looking at Super Nintendo Doom by Williams Entertainment Incorporated. I don't know, they did some console ports from Doom in the 90s. It's definitely way lower, one of the way lower res ports, and it uses the same technology as Star Fox, of all things, the Super Effects chip to get running.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay. My
Yeah.
Oh,
Also, you
God.
can't pick
Ugh.
you can't pick the later episodes on lower skills, which I think is interesting.
I wonder why.
Probably, I don't know. You gotta play on hard mode to see the true ending.
Ah, of course.
But yeah, the music for one is much better than the 32X port of all things. It's one thing Nintendo did that Sega don't did. I don't know.
That's how that. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're just gonna roll with that.
Yep.
Oh.
But yeah, the major technical thing is the Super Nintendo can't render flats, so we just have bare colors on the floors and ceilings. But oddly enough, they do have the tech pillars here in level 1, which pretty much every other console port doesn't have. But yeah, shoot, what was I gonna say?
Wow.
I don't know. Oh yeah, the enemies can't. They don't have rotation sprites, so they can't infight. One of those deals again. Too much for the Super Nintendo.
So uncatching rocket launcher rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took me a second to get what you were asking there.
Yeah, I phrased it kind of oddly. Yes, rockets always face you, even when you're shooting them.
Yep. And yeah, I was gonna say this isn't the official console optimized level set. This is like some proprietary, like Williams Entertainment done level set for the Super Nintendo, which a lot of the time keeps it more faithful than other console ports to the original PC version, which I again think is weird.
I suppose that I don't know. I suppose the reasoning behind that is they did want to keep it more authentic. Maybe the frame rate didn't actually benefit from using the optimized levels, so they were like, screw it, and they just kind of redid the levels as close as they could without making sure that there were sections that were completely unplayable and those were worked around.
Maybe. Don't say I have the full scoop on this version.
Well,
Oh, yeah, another thing with the console ports, for some reason the health and armor bonuses give you 2 extra points instead of 1. That's true for all the console ports, I think.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I never brought it up.
Maybe because playing Doom with a controller is just ass.
That's true. To be fair, the Super Nintendo has the L and R buttons, which means I can actually circle strafe in this version.
Oh my god. Okay. That's actually really nice. Oh yeah,
Yep.
hey, look at that.
Yep, it seems to be a pretty complete version of E1M1 Hanger. Oh yeah, one last thing about the levels. what was it? Oh yeah, the secret, the secret exits are in different levels now. I guess because they had to
Oh.
cut the levels they were originally in.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Also, this is the first time. This version of Doom is the first I ever got to play all 3 episodes in, because for the longest time I had it on Doom 95 shareware version, and
So you only had the first episode, right?
yeah, exactly. And my dad had a Super Nintendo ROM of this, so that's how I played through Doom 1, all the way through for the first time.
Nice.
That was fun. It also deceived me on where the secret exits are, because
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That explains some of the confusion we had in our earlier years of playing Doom.
Yep, exactly.
All right. I remember those times. Wow.
All right. Do we want to get to the Doom novels now? Because I'm just about out, and by just about I
Yeah.
mean all the way.
Yeah, let's do it then.
All right. So last we left off, Flynn Taggart had just arrived at, I believe, E1M8 Phobos anomaly. I don't remember if he was with Arlene or not, because it's been a number of months. I think she's with him. I guess we'll find
I
out.
do not remember either. And boy, this might take me a second to find, so you'll probably have to start us off.
All right, I'll start chapter 14. I stared at the skull and crossbones. Whatever was up ahead was bad enough for Arlene to claw her way through a tiny crack in the wall rather than face it. Yet she wasted precious seconds leaving the warning for yours truly. Thank God I didn't have to solve the mystery of the skull and crossbones. Getting through that crack would be an achievement all by itself. Again, I began to hear a low, slow pounding, almost like someone beating on a monster drum in a mile distant. A mile distant. Sorry, jeez. Well, I could take that so long as it stayed there. I struggled out of my armor and pressed my right arm and shoulder into the crack. But there I stuck. I braced my foot against the floor and shoved. Several minutes and several pounds of flesh later, I was utterly convinced I could never fit through that crack unless I dismembered myself and threw the pieces through one at a time. Wonderful. If I'll seriously consider that option when I see what... Wonder if I'll seriously consider that option when I see what's ahead, I thought. So now what? I sat on the floor, pounding my head with my hand in frustration. If I went forward, I was on my own. Arlene was no coward. If the thing ahead scared the bejesus out of her, enough that she forced her way through a crack several sizes too small, then what in God's name was it? Numbly, I stood, pulling on the armor again, as Mehitable, the cat.
Yeah, as Mehitable the cat said to Archie.
Archie the cockroach.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell? I already roamed the halls of the damned. What did I have to lose? No, you haven't, Doom Guy. That's E2M6, you idiot. I suppose I could sit here and starve to death. Shaking, I moved forward at snail speed, loaded rocket launcher in hand. But what if I found myself eyeball to eyeball with whatever it was? A rocket up the nose might piss it off, but at point-blank range, it would also fry Corporal Fly. Ahead I found an old-fashioned wooden elevator next to an old-fashioned rusted button. Somehow they seemed to fit right in here. In a place with living ladders, a few museum places were hardly out of line. I pushed the button with a slow grinding sound. The lift began to descend. So far, so good. It reached the ground level, and I clumped aboard. What the hell else could I do? There was one button, and I pushed it. The lift creaked and groaned, like it was 100 years old, announcing my arrival to anyone inside. I braced, wondering whether to shift to the shotgun. Then it stopped up one floor. And my God, I saw what was inside. On a pair of iron thrones sat the largest, reddest, most horrible demons I could imagine, compared to compared to which the other guys were fit for hosting kiddie shows on Saturday mornings. Giant minotaurs with goat limbs for legs and curling savage horns on the top of their flat, broad heads. The chests and arms were carved from pure muscle. Their claws were so vicious that there was no comparison to the puny stuff I'd seen up until now. Princes of Hell. And they were looking directly at me. So far, so bad. I froze, whimpering like a Cub Scout. All I could think was, oh Lord, the sisters were right all along. The Hell Prince on the left rose, trumpeting a marrow-freezing roar of discovery. Come on, come on, come on, Fly, snap out of it. Get the hell out of Dodge. I hated every minute of every day of basic at Paris Island, and I bow at Staff Sergeant Stern's feet and kiss his shiny boots for every second of it. My training kick-started my paralyzed legs, even while my brain was struggling to remember the Lord's Prayer. All I could get was, Hail Jesus, and I knew that was wrong. Faster than I thought myself capable, I bolted, but forward, right at these things, and skirted between the forest of red legs and into a black dark beyond. If they'd been any smaller, they would have had my head for lunch. I ran across a long stretch of floor and heard the familiar pig snorts left and right. I ran through utter blackness until I hit a wall, banging my shins. I hardly noticed. There I spun, snarling, fishing for my riot gun. Those porcine sons of bitches wanted Fly Taggart. They could bloody well take him, but not cheaply. They were converging on me. I could hear their snufflings and hungry growls. What the hell, I was dead anyway, right? I raised the shotgun and pounded a shell straight in front of me. One of the pig demons screamed in pain. Oh, you mean they can be hurt? I'd been wondering. I scuttled right. The wall came to a point folding back on itself. I slipped around and immediately barked my already bruised shin on a barrel of that green toxic mess. Staring into the sickly glow, I had a shimmer of an idea. Quickly, before I could think twice and decide against it, I heaved over the barrel. The goose spilled out of the 120-liter drum, and now my whole corner was lit by a hellish green glow. I could see. I was in a pointy corner amid a forest of toxin barrels. But the monsters coming after me were still invisible. I was under attack by ghosts, and the ghosts and the pig things were eventually one and the same. But yours truly, Flynn Taggart, never forgets a scam. I backed away from the flickering shadows into the actual point. Maybe I couldn't see them, but they sure as hell could see me. They charged. I shot. Not a ghost. I shot a barrel. The explosion chain reacted and I dived for the deck. Too late, I remembered the 10 or 11 rockets in my bandoliers. Luckily, the explosion stopped just short of me. When the acrid rain of toxic waste stopped falling, I jumped to my feet. My entire body resonated, and my inner ear was confused. I balanced precariously on my hind legs, shotgun wavering up and down and sideways. But my ghosts appeared to have died. Again. At least they didn't attack. Staring wildly around the room, now lit by the green glow of 10,000 droplets of toxin sprayed far and near, I realized to my surprise that the room was actually a huge star-shaped chamber. That seemed right in line with everything else. If they could have swastikas, why not star chamber proceedings? Alas, my restful reverie was short-lived. The hideous Hell Princes had seen my explosion and come to investigate. But this time, I knew what to expect. Nuns or no nuns. I told myself over and over that these were alien life forms, not demons. They couldn't be real demons, could they? Hell was a myth, wasn't it? I raised my rocket launcher and let the first Hell Prince have it. They're barons, come on. At 40 meters, the blast blew the motherless bastard backward. It got to its feet. I couldn't believe it. I fired a second time, pack loaded with one smooth move, and shot a third rocket. The giant got up again, and now it was joined by its comrade. This was not going according to plan. They pointed their clawed hands at me, but instead of the usual balls of flaming snot, these demons fired. green energy pulses out of wrist launchers. I hugged wrist launchers.
Yes, I heard you, but what?
Wrist launchers.
No, stop it.
I hugged the dirt as the stuff crackled over my head and made every hair on my head stand on its end. Not very demonic, but pretty damn deadly. My turn again. In desperation, I pumped rocket number 4 at the first Hell Prince, and it at last seemed to do some damage. It got to its feet slowly and seemed confused about where I was. There was no reason to even try bothering the new one if I couldn't find out what repeated hammering did to the first Minotaur. Yeah, Minotaurs. They weren't demons. That Greek Theseus killed one. Reload, rocket 5, and finally that did the trick. Number 1 went down and didn't get up again. But with behavior I was starting to expect from all godless creatures, it reached up a clawed hand and grabbed the other Hell Prince. Number 2 struggled to free itself, and I seized my opportunity. Screaming like a banshee, I charged to just out of range of its reach. Enraged, it slashed furiously, but my prayers were answered, and it was too mad to think of shooting energy bolts. I leaned in to shove the launcher right down the creature's enormous howling mouth and let fly. I won't even try to describe its breath. The Minotaur swallowed the little rocket, about the relative size of a multivitamin, and was literally blown away. I was knocked silly by the blast at such a close proximity. I came to, surprised to be coming to. Losing consciousness in a place like this seemed like a one-way ticket to oblivion. I was lying on the floor of the same enormous star-shaped chamber, but the walls had fallen, crumbling into constituent bricks outside, leaving the way clear to the outside. Oh, they really did write outside twice. That was the whole concept of outside. That whole concept of outside bothered me. Why wasn't I a corpse sickle floating in space? There was no air to breathe. There was an overcast sky to watch, complete with low-hanging clouds, dark clouds before a storm. Wherever I was, it sure as hell wasn't Phobos. I found a platform behind the building. There was a switch. I pressed it and watched a stairway slowly rise. What in hell, Archie? What the hell? I walked up the stairs. At the very top there was a gate, a working gate. It was marked by a flickering symbol that gave me a splitting headache when I tried to concentrate on the design. I approached it, eyes averted. And damn me if there wasn't Arlene Sanders' last mark, right next to the gate, pointing directly at the symbol. She'd written a single word. Out? I didn't know, but I didn't hesitate a moment. If that were the way Arlene went, then that was where I was going. Without a glance, I stepped aboard. That was a bad move. Shouldn't have done that. Chapter 15. Time had no meaning for Fly Taggart. The memory of being Fly Taggart, he had no body but retained a consciousness somehow, somewhere, a sense of motion, but that might only be another memory. Remembering a hand created a hand. Remembering a foot resulted in the sensation of a foot, a painful sensation from where his ankle had been bruised. Memory of a backache condensed into a patch of flesh and blood that was a back. Memory of breath turned emptiness into a pair of lungs. Recollection of hot days on a summer beach left their imprint on a forehead slick with sweat. Then he had a whole body floating in a warm current of air slowly cooling. An upside-down vertigo turning his stomach, which meant he had a stomach. The fall wasn't long, and he skinned his knees on a hard metal surface before falling forward on his face. The air was cold. He blinked eyes in an aching head. He couldn't see anything but white and red spots chasing each other across a field of darkness. The man panicked at the thought that he'd been blinded, but gradually vision returned. There wasn't much worth seeing. The light was dim. He wanted to breathe fresh air again as he had before stepping on the platform. He'd been breathing the stale air of spaceships and the Mars station and the Phobos installations for so long, he'd almost forgotten what fresh air was like. Even if it had been fake, he wanted it again. But when he filled his lungs, it was that disgusting sour lemon smell he had first noticed when he killed his first zombie. He was a man again, but he didn't want to be back in hell. Yet he had traveled somewhere, hadn't he? He felt he'd come a very long way just to reach... I didn't know where I was. Instinctively, I reached with my left hand for the machine pistol, the weapon I could most quickly bring into play. My hand slapped bare flesh. There was nothing on my chest but air. I looked down and saw that I was naked. Jesus and Mother Mary, and after all that work gathering shotgun, Sig Cow, and rocket launcher. Having lost my clothes during the strange journey didn't bother me, except for the drop in temperature, but I didn't want to turn into dead meat because I didn't have weapons. A naked man is an unarmed man. I wasn't going to waste another second before reconnoitering. That's a word. If there were monsters anywhere near here, then I had to get my hands on a firearm right away. The sour lemon smell was a dead giveaway. God, I thought we were done with the lemons.
We're never done with the lemons.
I really thought.
No, they're here forever. We're gonna get to the final book in the series, and the final word is going to be a punchline, and it's gonna be sour lemons.
No, it'll be some reveal of a grander theme that's been throughout the entire series, and it'll be incredibly retrospective and profound.
What kills me is that you're right, probably. Joke or not, it probably is something with the sour lemons, and god damn it! Why? I get to implant this idea.
Well, we'll see. All right, where was I? Sour lemons. Dead giveaway. Zombies lurked somewhere in the shadows. I'd come through a gateway with nothing but my body, but at least I was breathing. I wanted to keep it that way. The gravity was Earth normal. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I saw I was in an oblong, rectangular building. Having had the experience of being outside before the transfer, I didn't look forward to roaming corridors again. I almost hated that idea more than the prospect of fighting monsters. Suddenly, it didn't feel merely cool any longer. It had gotten downright cold. Being stark naked presented other problems. With all the disgusting ways to die I had recently discovered, I'd be damned if I wanted to catch my death of a cold. Adrenaline pumping madly, my drug of choice, I ran in the most promising direction. A red light pulsed dimly in the shadows directly ahead, and the flat, slapping sound of bare feet against the metal floor seemed almost as loud as my boots had earlier. If this setup were anything like the one I'd left, I actually wanted to find a zombie. Alive or dead. They were armed with what I needed, and a lot easier to deal with than the spinies or ghosts. I found the source of the red light. An entire wall emitted crimson illumination. At the bottom was an inverted cross cutout, just big enough to serve as a doorway. It was directly in line with a square platform on the ground. The platform was red too. The symbolism was blasphemy. Anyone walking through the doorway would have the privilege of being crucified. The religious imagery was starting to piss me off. Whoever or whatever was behind this had learned things about human psychology that I preferred it not know. I slipped through, feeling dirty and corrupted. I felt an unholy chill as I walked through the inverted cross in the red wall, the color of communion wine, the color of blood from fallen comrades. How right I was to think of buddies lost in battle. Directly on the other side of the opening was the dead body of UAC technician locked in a mortal embrace with a soldier I recognized from Fox Company. I wasn't likely to forget Dover. The youngest kid in the outfit, we'd bagged on him something fierce. He was patriotic to the core and easy to rag. As I looked at the remains of this friendly, turn the page, private, the boyish face that hadn't been altered even in the death, I regretted the times I'd helped him get drunk. Finding out that Johnny enjoyed singing old ballads badly off key when he was honed and capped was too much temptation. I thought that was funny as everyone else did. "Sorry, kid," I muttered to his corpse, relieved that at least he'd received the gift of a clean death. He hadn't been reworked. Now it was Johnny's turn to provide Fly Taggart with a piece of serious artillery. He was lying on top of a sig cow with a 50-pound round magazine. Thanks to him, I might still be a naked savage, but I was back in the game. I was a Marine once more. As I examined my surroundings, I had the feeling I'd been dropped into a giant warehouse. There were huge boxes or crates all over the place. I like how he had to clarify that. Boxes or crates all over the place with UAC stenciled on them. I began to explore and noticed a red glowing square that emitted a curious heat. I avoided it for the moment, welcome though the heat would be. Having gotten in the habit of following Arlene's arrows, I started hunting and looking for more weapons, as well as food, water, and an unbroken radio. I was so intent on all this that I barely noticed it when I turned a corner and was back in zombie country. I shouldered the rifle and fired while they wasted time roaring. The shot was good. The nearest head exploded like a ripe melon. Melon! I didn't expect melon! God dang it. It wasn't... it was melon.
Well,
melon.
of course it would be. Of course.
Man. Still counting on avocado or pumpkin eventually.
Eventually.
Melon. That startled me. It was a single bullet, not a grenade. This zombie had to be especially ripe. The next one reacted more typically. The bullet made a normal hole and the creature fell to the floor, twitching. But I was already pounding around into the head of number 3, scuttling sideways, firing 2 or 3 shots at a time. I lost count of how many zombies went down. A few had weapons, but none had taken a shot at me yet. It was all too easy. Then something on the other side returned fire. Actual fire. The damned brown spinies were back, complete with their bizarre ability to toss flaming snot balls like warm-up pitchers for the devil. The easy zombie pickings had made me careless. The first fireball was too close, far too close, to my face and neck. The stuff stuck to my skin like napalm, burning like hell and reminding me that I had no protection over any part of my skin or vulnerable parts. But I was pumped. With a roar to match a hell prince, I charged the nearest spiny and let my bayonet do the talking. The blade split thick neck like a cantaloupe. Cantaloupe! God!
Really?
Pumpkin!
Why did Flynn Taggart's choice of fruit suddenly become so much more vivid?
Jeez Louise.
Month. Oh, God damn it.
The blade split thick neck like a cantaloupe, and the demon dropped, bleeding a deep ruby red. But even with a bayonet stuck in its windpipe and blood pumping out in buckets, it stretched a clawed hand up toward me. With a thrust and a yank, I tore the neck so badly that the head was hanging lopsided. It would take a lot more work than that to actually decapitate the mother, but at least it wouldn't bother me anymore. I needed the bayonet back. I had other fields to plow. A number of zombies had gathered around as I was busy taking care of the demon that I had hoped had been the one who burned my face. More spinies loitered by the weirdest place of the wall I'd seen yet, with human skulls stuck all over it like raisins in a cake. Raisins! What? I don't believe this. I give up. The next one's not going to be avocado or pumpkin. It's going to be like starfruit. A thin female zombie went first, a fat male second, and an ex-PFC third. I used the bayonet on all of them because there wasn't no room to shoot. There was no there. I read that wrong. Oops. Pivoting, slashing, and stabbing, shouting gleeful curses. This was the way to kill. The feel, the smell, the blood pouring out of them, beating through my veins. All linked. A world of blood. Some had to be mine, but this was no time to worry over the details. Then there was one zombie left. I recognized its face. Recognition slowed me down. This was a good face. Honest and stern, like the men who'd settled the frontier. Corporal Ryan, dead eyes and a face I once respected were an invitation to do more than kill. I had to erase him from the universe. I pinned him with the bayonet, but he was made of stern stuff, even as a zombie. Squirming forward, he clawed my face with long, dirty nails. Damned rifle was stuck in him. He was far stronger than the others, stronger than me. Thank God I knew Ryan better than his reanimated corpse did. The corporal always carried a 10mm pistol in a backdraw holster. I reached behind him. The gun was there. I drew the piece, stuck the business end in Ryan's mouth, and squeezed the trigger. His death grip combined with the pool of blood underfoot pulled me to the floor. It was too slippery to get up easily. While I freed myself, I tried real hard to assimilate the latest data. If zombies were holding a weapon when they died, they still used it. But the intelligence required to remember a hidden weapon was beyond their reach. Slipping and sliding on the blood was distracting, and then I realized that I was sobbing. Okay, can we just take a moment to picture this? Naked, bloody Doom guys crying on the floor of a warehouse after killing a zombie.
Well, he's also got a dead zombie on top of him.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Also, you start episode 2 naked, apparently. I didn't realize that. That's kind of... Alright, I didn't know we were going to get X-rated, but...
well...
Anyway, standing up, I realized with disgust that the real reason I was weeping was because I had temporarily run out of enemy. What?
Oh my God, maybe he is Doom Guy. Jesus Christ.
Alright.
Maybe he's just such an absolutely estranged person that he would be perfect for Doom Guy, and we've been too harsh this whole time.
Well...
He's such a bizarre character. Like, well, of course this odd outcast weirdo would be fucking Doom Guy. That's basically all we've chalked him up to be so far, is just... Oh my God. Is there a secret butterfly in Flint Taggart? Is he just a cocoon waiting to hatch into a horrible killing machine?
Oh, jeez. Maybe that's what that like sarcophagus you start in the Doom 4 is.
Oh my God.
That's just his cocoon.
Oh shit.
Anyway, all zombies were dead, and the monsters who had been watching over by the wall of skulls had run off. This was worse than being interrupted in the middle of making love. I really felt that. I had good reason to be crying like a baby. Pull yourself together, I ordered yours truly. I mean it. Cut the crap right now. Sorry. I mean it. Cut the crap right now. I wasn't going to put up with any insubordination. Damn you all. I screamed at the universe. How long am I supposed to take this over and over? It was a good question, but no one had any answers. I kicked the zombie's head, angry that he wasn't contributing his part to the conversation. Oh my God.
Alright, so we went from Doom Guy crying on the ground with a bloody zombie on him, naked, to now he's giving himself orders and getting angry at nobody.
What an idiot.
Goodness. God.
Zombies weren't the only inanimate objects around. I found a metal cabinet that I tore off and flung at a console. What's this guy's problem? That whole teleporter trip and being naked completely screwed his psyche, which is impressive to say the least.
Picked up a berserk pack on his way through. That's the only explanation. God, he's roid raging.
Great sound effects. I would have moved on in search of glass to break, and even a better sound. But I noticed my little tantrum had actually led to something useful, as the forest fire raging in my brain toned down to a mild fever delirium. I vowed never to say anything bad about dumb luck again. A hidden drawer in the console sprang open. I investigated, hoping to find a weapon. Instead, I found another of those computer keycards. The very same cards I had sworn not to use again while I had my trusty rockets. The very same rockets I no longer had. Buck Rogers, back to square one. I picked up the translucent blue computer disc. Waste not, want not. A rifle in one hand, pistol in the other, and a keycard clenched in my teeth. Not having any pockets was becoming a major pain in the butt. Why didn't I simply field strip a corpse? I don't know. I guess my brain wasn't rolling on all tank treads. One direction seemed as good as or bad as any other, so I went back the way I had come. As the frenzy of the battle wore off, I was starting to feel cold again. The red platform was appealing as the only source of heat I knew about, around in here. The next best thing was to... Bleh.
The next best thing to a roaring fireplace.
Yes, thank you. It felt great as the heat warmed my cold, naked skin. Then, as idiots have asked themselves throughout history, I asked the magic words, "Why not?" and rubbed my hands over the thing. A million flashbulbs exploded in my face. By the time I finished blinking the world back into focus, I realized I was not in the room I had just been.
What? Oh my god, teleporter.
Yep.
Seriously?
Yep. My mouth dropped open. Fly, you gorm! I think you just discovered your first teleporter. Oh, I read that wrong. Never mind. That square red platform just had to be the teleport pads I had heard about when they posted Fox Company to Mars. They were just big enough for a man to stand on, assuming he felt adventurous. I was dubious about the whole thing from day one, and so was Gunny Goforth. If I were surrounded by trolls and out of ammo, I decided I might try one. Nothing short of that would tempt me. The teleport pads were already there when humans first arrived, presumably built the same time as the gates and gravity generators. Practical folk that we are, we incorporated them into the design of the base. UAC used them to transport heavy ingots and equipment. I don't think many people used them. Most of us worried about things like souls and continuity of consciousness and all that crap. Trust Corporal Fly Taggart to render the whole philosophical discussion moot by tripping over his own feet into it. As I stared stupidly at my new surroundings, a swarm of zombies poured around the corner. As the first one fired a round that took me in the shoulder, several thoughts whizzed through my mind. First, as I fell into the floor, I thought of riding up the careless dolt who triggered a teleporter by sticking his paws where they weren't supposed to be. The second thought, as I rolled onto my back, was more ironic. Moments before, I'd been unhappy over running out of zombies. My third thought, as I sat up, stunned, was, "I'm shot!" My sig cow was out of reach. I'd let go of it, along with the keycard. I'd opened fire with the 10mm. A nearby stone platform provided me cover. The zombies were too stupid to do the same. They reminded me of army privates.
Generic army from movies where they all just like sprint in a straight line at the enemy.
Sure.
Yep. All right.
Taking my time about it, I aimed and fired. Aimed and fired. The bullet went in, the blood came out. I took them one by one, killing the very last at point-blank range. This time I wasn't sorry I'd run out of zombies. The bullet in my shoulder made me groggy. There was nothing I'd rather do at the moment than lie down in a nice warm pool of blood and sleep forever. Nothing suicidal, sleep was good. Rest was a sacrament. Willing my reluctant body to move, I got up. Chapter 16. By now I must have looked like a zombie myself. I felt like one. Being honest about it, I had to admit that I didn't know how a human being crossed over into a zombie state. I hadn't seen the process. The talkative monster implied that he could control zombies, but he never said a word about how they were made. He simply lied about not reworking me if I surrendered. I wondered, was this how others became what they were? Fighting a never-ending war that finally drove them mad? Wasn't a sign of insanity the conviction that everyone and everything is the enemy? That was the way I'd been living since I left the cafeteria and the two Rons and began the assault on Phobos base and wherever the hell I was now. Turning a corner, I was greeted by a sight not calculated to reassure a man doubting his sanity. A giant skull half the length of a full-grown man glared at me through empty sockets. It seemed to be made of brass. I stared into its eyeless sockets before allowing my gaze to lower. The giant metal skull had a tongue, a curving, snarky metal tongue. There was no way this was a standard issue in a UAC refinery. Of course, the skull's tongue had to be a lever. If I can't help it, I said, I'm a born lever puller.
What does that even mean? Is that really? I feel like that's innuendo.
Oh. Well, he is nude. He's still nude.
Yeah. Damn it, Taggart.
I've got your plank length right here. Classic.
Alright.
If I were already dead and in hell, it hardly mattered what would happen if I pulled the lever. I still had my curiosity, and even if I were still alive, trying to save humanity from an alien invasion, then I had even more curiosity. I pulled the lever. It was ice cold against my already chilled fresh flesh. A metallic grinding noise riveted my attention. It sounded like all the old abandoned automobile plants in Detroit had started up at once. And with all that sound, one stupid box rose from the ground containing another pair of skull-tongued switches. I pulled the next one in line and heard a click from the wall directly in front of me. I'm not even sure where he is right now, if I'm being honest.
I don't remember that either.
I'm sure we'll be able to figure out eventually.
Yeah.
Moving to investigate, I saw a crack of light in the wall, then another and another until the yellow lines had formed a perfect square. Secret doors were losing their appeal for me. If this one were going to improve my opinion, then it had better offer something better than the usual collection of monsters. I shoved open the door with one mighty heave. A bloody, naked figure held a gun pointed directly at my face. By reflex, I shoved my own piece right between its eyes. "Drop the gun! Drop the freaking gun! Put it down! I swear to God I'll blow your fool head! Where I can see them, put your hands up! And don't move or... on the ground, move!" Her eyes were alive, and she spoke words. By now we both stood, each pistol pressed against the other's face, eyes wide with fear, wonder, and hope. Was it? Could it be? Could she be? Shouting at the top of our voices in pain, rage, and desperate need. My hammer was cocked, but my finger outside the trigger guard. I had just begun to suspect, something clicked in my brain. The penny dropped. I recognized the bloody, disheveled, pallid creature. A dream come true, if true, in a world that specialized in nightmares. Panting before my face, watching warily, ready to fire off half the magazine if necessary, stood the reason I had come this far and hadn't yet given up. I wanted to say her name, but I couldn't. We were each locked in a perimeter of silence, holding a gun against each other's face. Doubts and paranoia having the only voice, one of us would have to say something. She went first. Drop the friggin' gun. Am I still doing that? Duke Nukem for Everyone's voice?
As far as Doom is concerned, everyone has the same sprite in multiplayer.
That's true, but they are. Well, one of them's at least nude. I don't know if the other one is.
I believe they're both nude.
Yeah, I had a
Let's
feeling.
see. Bloody naked figure held a gun pointed directly
yeah,
at my
yeah,
face.
you're
Yep,
right.
so they
Yeah.
all have the same sprite.
All right,
For better or worse.
let's not be childish about this now.
Well, to be fair, I am imagining them as no detail nude Doom Guy sprite, but they still have the Doom Guy helmet on.
They're just Ken dolls with the Doom Guy helmet.
Pretty much, yeah. Thank you. That's a great way to describe that.
All right. The command came.
Oh god. Sorry. I feel like there's actually a sprite of that somewhere, but Doom Guy's holding the gun a little bit low to censor himself. I swear I've seen that before.
I don't know.
I don't know where or what. Oh, you know what? Probably like a sprite player sprite pack.
Maybe.
Just one of the more obtuse ones.
It doesn't sound familiar to me, but I could believe that it exists.
I feel like a weirdo for looking for it, but I'm probably gonna go look for it later.
Well, you know.
We'll see.
Where was I? Dropped the
50 Shades of
freaking
Hell.
gun. The command came from a lifetime of giving not an inch or trusting without two forms of picture ID, and that had been back on Earth. She'd worked hard in every friendship based on a sense of honor. She'd kicked her way onto the Mars mission, and this is what she'd found. But she'd survived, and I'd survived. She'd kept me alive with every AS and arrow. And maybe her fantasy that I'd come after her kept her alive. Why else use our private code, a link between just the two of us? But now there was no room for sentiment, only for certainty. You are a dead man if you do not drop the freaking gun now. Oops. My arm and hand had been through too much to even consider it. My body was wired for instant responses, the same as her body if she were still the old Arlene. The only reason I hadn't blown her away automatically was the time spent praying she was alive, and a willingness to take risk right now that she wasn't really a zombie. No zombie had ever spoken before, and somehow, covered with mud and gore, she looked too damned bad to be a zombie. Only the living could look that fried. Arlene, your ass is mine, I replied. I've had the drop on you since I opened the damn door. Zombies didn't talk that way either. They didn't tease or smile a moment later when awareness crept across a human face. She returned that smile, and I knew everything would be alright. Your finger wasn't even on the trigger, big guy. I'd have blown you away before you'd fumbled around and found it. She was wounded, disheveled, filthy, and terrified, naked, and totally alive. You're alive! I shouted. No, really? She shouted back. We slowly lowered our weapons simultaneously.
Flashbacks now.
What's that?
I'm getting some 0-hour flashbacks now.
0 hour.
0 hour.
Oh, Duke
Or
Nukem.
was it? Yeah, Duke Nukem 0 hour.
Yeah,
Yep.
I had it confused with the Wolfenstein 3D track 0 hour.
Oh yeah. Nope.
Sorry, my bad. Staring me up and...
One moment. I'm getting a call. I will be back in a moment.
Alright, I'll keep reading.
All right.
Staring me up and down, she commented, "Nice fashion statement." I'd forgotten I was buck naked. My damned reflexes insisted on embarrassing me, and I had reflexively covered myself. Well, I guess it was one more proof I was still fully human. I doubt the zombies are modest. Turn your back for Christ's sake, I implored. I will not, she answered, eyes moving where they shouldn't. You're the first decent thing I've seen since this creep show began. If we kept this up, maybe things would get so bloody normal that the monsters would simply pack their suitcases and leave. Arlene couldn't dish out a hard time when she wanted. I decided to get dressed and finally noticed the corpses and stripped one. She reached out a hand. No, Fly. Don't put those on yet. Please. My right foot was halfway into a boot far too small to fit. It stretched, conforming to the size of my foot. One size truly fits all. Arlene turned red as the crimson wall. Jesus, I'm sorry, Fly. You're my buddy. I shouldn't have made you uncomfortable. Forgive me? I finished dressing. It didn't take long. Now it was my turn to look her over, which I did with a lot more subtlety than she did with me. I kept my eyes moving where she'd let hers stop, in embarrassing places. God, she looked good. All the dirt and blood almost gave her the appearance of being dressed in a weirdly hip punk outfit. Her slender waist, tight-firm thighs, medium bust, and long arms made me think of more than the undeniable fact that she had the body of the ideal orbital pilot, her ultimate goal when she'd earned enough in service to take in a hiatus, get a degree, and take a commission. Space travel needed the occasional boost in morale. She finally got the idea. There were plenty of corpses around with uniforms waiting to be stripped. I watched her from the corner of my eye as she followed my example. The best aspect of these form-fitting uniforms was the way they were conformed to every contour of the human body. She looked just as good in clothes. I tried to think of something appropriate to say, then grunted, punching her shoulder middling hard. "Now I forgive you," I said with a grin. The grin didn't last long. I'd completely forgotten about the bullet wound in my shoulder. The pain finally caught up with me as the adrenaline wore off. "Geez, that looks bad," she said. "Maybe there's some medikits around here. You mind holding still while I do some alterations on your shoulder? Meanwhile, tell me where the hell you came from." Seems like a fair deal to me. "Long as you tell me what happened to you, AS. You and the company, and what the hell you were doing hiding in a cupboard." She made me go first. I recapped everything that had happened since I left Ron and Ron behind in the mess hall. She'd been through the same crap. I didn't need to be overly detailed about the killing. It would be nothing more than a sentence completion exercise. While I told her my adventures, hoping I wasn't boring her, we weren't standing still. With the soft suction sounds of our boots on the cold stone floor, we went hunting for medical supplies. "I'd rather go up against a dozen zombies than one of these monster aliens." Monster aliens? I was telling Arlene as she yanked a closet door open. Dozens of shotguns cascaded down on us like bales of hay. Heavy, painful bales of hail. Fortunately, they weren't loaded. Staring at the pile of weapons for a long moment, I put on my best annoyed face and asked Arlene, "Can't you keep your space neat and tidy?" Rolling her eyes, she scooped up one of the weapons and tossed it to me. She took one too. I regretted leaving behind such a beautiful pile of weaponry, but Arlene and I had only had 4 hands between us. We still needed a medikit, and Arlene was starving. With the burning sensation growing in my arm, a medikit was first on the list. Then I was going to get my recon babe out of this hellhole. I'd email her, if that's what it took to pack her back to Mars. No, Earth. "Get your crap together," I said, "and take mental notes." "Notes? We've got to give a full report when we get back. We're blowing this popcorn stand." Arlene smiled wanly. Wanly? You have any good ideas on that one, Ace? I left a land cart back at the entrance. We can hot rod it back to the airbase and take the troop ship back to Mars, or even Earth. It should be able to make it. Arlene looked around, studying the architecture. The architect must have been hired by the Addams family. Nothing seemed normal. The surface of the walls was rough, twisted, the sickening color of internal organs. Skulls, monster faces, and decay dominated everywhere I chanced to glance. Arlene coughed politely. Just two problems with that plan. First, we're not on Phobos anymore, Toto. Huh? We're on Deimos, and there ain't no land carts or rockets either. We used all the ships to bug our people out 4 years ago. Fly, we're stuck here, and we don't even know where here is. I must have looked blank. She continued. Look, Fly, don't you remember when Deimos vanished from the screens? No, actually, what the hell are you talking about? Whoops, I guess you were already in custody when we got word from Boyd that Deimos had disappeared from the Martian sky. The idea that a moon could suddenly vanish bothered me, for some reason. Wouldn't there have been gravitational effects? I asked. She laughed before asking, Are you kidding? Do you know how small Deimos is? It's even smaller than Phobos. I knew that. The real chunks of space rock were so small that their real gravity was theoretical, notwithstanding the alien gravity zones. Although I'd become used to fantastic events lately, a little nugget of skepticism snatched at my capacity to believe just anything. How do you know we're on Deimos? 'Cause I've been here, Fly. I did a TDS and a yeoman right here while I was waiting for an opening in the light drop. A yeoman? Marines don't have any step positions. Only line positions. On loan to the Navy. Technically I was still a rifleman, but the only weapon they issued me was a word processor. I had to think about this. The implications were definitely bad, and the image of Arlene Sanders as a secretary was astonishing. I looked up. There was a skylight in the ceiling, and where Mars should have been, there was nothing. Where stars should have been, there were no stars. The black of space was missing too. All I saw was a gray mist, not to be confused with clouds. The texture was all wrong. Having a gift for the oblivion, I said, We're not in orbit around Mars, are we? Ma'am, and I'm reading Knee Deep in the Dead by David Ab Hughes, the novelization of Doom 1. She smiled and patted me on the head. Congrats, Fly, you win the Nobel Prize. You don't see a pressure dome up there, do you? But we're still sucking air. I know we're on Deimos. I recognize all the stuff that H.P. Lovecraft didn't redecorate. Who was I to know? Was H.P. Lovecraft? Who I wanted to know was H.P. Lovecraft. If he had anything to do with this, I wanted to punch his lights out. No, Fly, Arlene said. He was a fantasy writer, early 20th century American, obsessed with hybrid monsters and underground labyrinths. Always describing ancient menaces as eldritch. I'd never heard the word before, but it sounded just right. This situation has got eldritch coming out the ass. You can say that again, chick. She agreed. And this is Deimos, muchacho. The only thing is, these bastards have taken it somewhere. Great, so what's number 2? She looked puzzled for a moment. Then she frowned. I don't want to hurt you, Fly. I licked my lips, feeling my stomach contract. I never liked anything from a girl that began like that. What? You've always been more loyal to the Corps than I was, my friend. I stiffened.
Wink.
I lost my place. That was too much. What's wrong with the Corps? The Marines have I can't do this voice anymore. Marines have given me a lot, babe. In case you'd forgotten. She smiled back and shook her head. Arlene hadn't forgotten my father, pathological liar and petty thief who ended up doing 25 to life for his 4th felony conviction. Trying to run down a state trying to run down a state trooper with his pickup truck. He died in Vacaville 2 years later from a cerebral hemorrhage, they said. Oh, hey, this level has some differences. Well, we'll see later. I'll keep reading. My father was the pettiest, lowest, meanest man I ever knew. He couldn't even understand the word honor. He never knew why I joined the Corps. Never would have understood if I told him I did it for him. So I would never be him. All right, I confess, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned. The Corps was the world to me. There's nothing wrong with the United States Marine Corps, Fly, but damn you, there's something a bit more important. Like what? Like the human freaking race. She had me cold, so I got pissed. Hang the human race. It's Tommy this, Tommy that. Oh, don't quote Kipling at me. I'm the one who gave you the book, Fly. What do you think the whole purpose of the Corps is? I didn't say anything. I didn't like where this was leading. I knew what she was going to say, but I couldn't figure where she was going. But I couldn't figure where she was wrong. You're too much into honor and duty, Fly. Don't you know what duty means? We're the ones on the wall, kiddo. They might not know we're there, but might not even know that there is a wall. Might not give a hang, but that's what we're here for. Fly, this is bigger than just getting both of us out alive. We're the only ones here, only ones who know about the invasion. The only ones who might be able to throw something big and heavy into the gears. And damn it to hell, I'm not going to bug out until I do it. I glared at Arlene. I wanted to protect her, get her out of there. I was a man, and she was my bull. I was a Marine, and so was Arlene. That's a good rhyme. Good rhyme. I understood what she meant about the wall. Somebody had to man it. Who else? I lowered my gaze. We couldn't just bug out even if we could find a transport on abandoned Deimos. We had to get to the bottom of all this. And if Deimos was like Phobos, I had a feeling that meant getting to the bottom of the Deimos facility. For some weird reason, the alien monster demons preferred down. Besides, her point number one still made sense too. We don't even know where here is. Deimos had been yanked away somewhere. We were stuck. No rocket, no clue where we might be. Only that we weren't in orbit around Mars anymore. Up meant what? Empty space? Nothingness? The only way out, if there was one, was down. Following the levels of Deimos to the bottom. I glared up at her again. Her eyes were cold as steel, as warm as the Sacred Heart. Well, don't expect me to say I'm sorry, I muttered. Alright. Break time. That's the stuff. Man, could I be playing this level any slower? Oh yeah, another weird thing with the SNES port, the Baron's corpse doesn't quite animate all the way. The last frame is, he's still standing on his legs, like his bifurcated corpse is just standing up on its two goat legs. It's a bit strange. And I guess the demons make the imp noises now too. I don't know. And I'm not going to be reading again until we get to the part that's different. My throat's, it's killing me, man. I need a backup Duke. And of course, the lost souls now make the cacodemon hiss. It's a bunch of strange things. Yeah, I know what you meant by backup Duke. I gotcha. Unfortunately, the only other person here is on the phone or something. I don't know where he went. He said he had a call. I'm not sure what that means exactly. I am curious to know what resolution this runs at, because it's even lower than the default Doom 320 by 200. And that's kind of astounding. God dang it, Fly. How dare. Alright, we're coming up to the part with differences. We got this room here with slime. Not much different yet, but you'll see. Now we're going to get the rat suit. Yep. And we're going to go into this tunnel, which previously in vanilla PC DOS, MS-DOS compatible Doom, there was a soul sphere. There's now a soul sphere and secret exit. And that had me confused for years on end. There you go. That's how you get to the Fortress of Mystery in the SNES Doom console port thing. This. I'm here in the middle of the gray landscape. And it's just the Fortress of Mystery, which you can't make them infight in because they don't have rotational sprites. So... sucks. I don't know. I have all this plasma ammo though, so that's a plus. Well, now that that's out of the way, more Knee Deep in the Dead, Chapter 17. While we'd been talking, we came across an undamaged crate that looked promising. All that stood between us and it was one of my fireball-throwing buddies. This one never got a chance to warm up. Arlene whirled and blasted him. The demon went down without a chance to hawk and spit. The label on the crate promised medikits and, comrades? Comrades? Okay. We opened it and found a full pantry. Arlene insisted on playing nurse before I played chef. She examined my shoulder. The bullet had gone straight through. Score 1 for my side. She injected universal antiviral/antibiotic and wrapped a bandage around my shoulder, while I gritted my teeth and groaned like a big baby. When she finished with my arm, I heaved a sigh of relief. God, I hate I hate medical crap. But I was premature. I'd forgotten about my burns. Arlene didn't forget. The cream she applied on my forehead, cheeks, and chin hurt worse than the arm injections. It hurt so bad that I started hunting for any serious cuts or burns Arlene might have. Something that would require my delicate attention. and lots of cream. Despite her appearance, she was disgustingly healthy. Now it was her turn to tell a story. Fly, she began, pausing to gulp water from a bottle we'd extracted from the crate. I don't want to see anything like that at first assault ever again. She sat with her back to a wall, and I stood where I had a good view of anything coming or going. I had to find out what happened to Fox Company. Munching on a bland, fast energy bar that tasted as fine as steak at the moment, I gave her my undivided attention and a chocolate bar of her own. The situation had been as bad as I imagined. The assault simply fell apart. Seeing zombies was enough. The guys didn't even need flaming snot. Wait, what? The guys didn't even need flaming snot demons to drive them off the deep end. Sheesh. Walking, staring, drooling, rotting human corpses proved sufficient to make them forget about every combat lesson they'd ever learned. They went crazy. They broke ranks and charged the zombies. Fox was full of fighting spirit, all right. It just lacked a plan, strategy, and tactics. A command structure, and a snowball's chance, and they should have known where as soon as they let themselves get isolated, cut off from each other. The fire-hawking Spinies picked them off one at a time. I couldn't really blame my buds. I'd had the same reaction, the same rage to rip the zombies apart with my bare hands. Arlene was saved because she wasn't affected by the male berserker fury. It must be a male thing. Testosterone, maybe? Jesus. Did that sour lemon odor actually stimulate a testosterone and adrenal rush overdose? Then again, she might simply have had better self-control than a guy. I interrupted to say, You're a better man than I am, Arlene. Shush, Fly. If you want to hear the rest of this. I shushed. I found a cupboard and hid out. She continued. I could hear them moving just beyond the door. Sometimes hearing is worse than seeing. I nodded at the truth of that observation. Like this ugly demon, I said, kicking the brown hide of the creature she'd dispatched. They hiss like giant serpents. Scares the piss out of you in the dark. She laughs. I wouldn't call that a demon. I've seen some others that more deserve the name. Yeah, I agreed. Remembering the Minotaurs. I guess those hell princes you warned me about with your skull and crossbones are more traditional demon design. I wouldn't know, she said. I never saw them. You're talking about the pentagram room? You didn't see them? I put one foot into that room and heard one of them scream. I guess it saw me, but I didn't stick around to see it. What do they look like? 8 feet tall, bright, flaming red with goat legs and huge horns. They fire some sort of electrical ball lightning from their wrist launchers. She shook her head. Nasty, but the thing I call a demon is a huge bloated pink thing with tusks. Maybe we should call it a pinky. That's very clever. Does your pink demon make a pig sound? The way she shuddered answered the question before she nodded. She wasn't kidding about what you hear being worse than what you see. I didn't press her for further details. I had a sinking feeling that no description was necessary. Before this was over, I imagined we'd be seeing lots worse nightmares. A full menagerie from the lowest pits of hell. So, what happened after you left me the warning? She smiled, happy to oblige. I ran like the devil. She interrupted herself, uncomfortable with the expression. The way things were going, there was no telling who we might meet next. I ran, she said, and found the crack. I had enough paint stick left for a final warning. I want you to know, Fly Taggart, that taking the time for that do not enter sign was the stupidest thing I did all day. While I was making like a public information booth, one of those hell princes, as you call them, came tromping down the hall. "You've got guts," I piped in, and didn't care if she shushed me this time. Instead, she insisted on my going back to the narrative and giving all the gory details of how close I'd come to cashing in when facing these monsters. Then she resumed. While I was writing as fast as I could, I studied a crack in the wall, wishing I could make it larger. I couldn't squeeze through. I know. I felt like dog dirt, but what could I do? I didn't have the jaws with me. A jaws? Okay. And no time to crank the crack wider, even if I did have. I wormed my way through, leaving a few layers of skin behind, and hoofed it for the gate. She stopped to catch her breath. "You must have been surprised when you came through stripped bare," I said. She sighed. I was surprised to still be alive, which is how I felt every leg of this mission. There was a corpse reception committee waiting at the other end, but at least they weren't zombies. While I picked my way through all those bodies, a metric ton of zombies started teleporting in. There were too many of them to handle, so I dived into a secret cupboard you found, and somebody pressed a switch, and the freaking door slammed shut. And then you showed up, looking. She struggled for words. Not a hell of a lot better than the zombies fly. "Thanks," I said. She always had a knack for compliments. Sometimes I suspected she liked toying with me. I pointed at the brown carcass of a spiny. "So, if you don't want me calling it a demon," I said, "how about a spiny? How about an imp?" "An imp? Why not? I had a book of fairy tales when I was a kid, with goblins and other things. The picture closest to this critter had the caption, 'Imp.' It was playing with magical fire." Our game was becoming fun. We didn't have a lot of entertainment at the moment. "I dunno," I said. "Something about the head reminds me of an old monster movie about a fish guy who lived in a lagoon." "He's an imp," she insisted, reminding me that, tough marine or not, she was still a woman. My mother didn't raise any fools. "He's an imp," I agreed. "We should name the others too," she said, encouraged. "We've got zombies, imps, demons or pinkies, and hell princes. What do we call the rest?" I laughed. "That's pretty biblical, isn't it?" She stared blankly. Not everyone had enjoyed the benefits of religious schooling. "Anyway, it's a great idea, Arlene. If we find a functional radio, we'll need to report to someone. We might as well play Adam and Eve and name all the beasts." She relaxed, convinced now that I wasn't making fun of her, so I continued. "One of these imps talked to me." I started, but Arlene cut me off. "Talked?" This was the most surprised I'd seen her yet. We hadn't exactly duplicated each other's adventures. He tried to get me to surrender, promising if I did, I wouldn't be reworked, zombified. But the son of a bitch was such a liar, I wouldn't trust him for the time with a clock stuck to his face. The way she laughed made me laugh. Finding her had changed everything. I wanted to live as well as fight. Report back to Mars or to Earth. Do my duty for the survival of the Homo sap. The home team. Are those all the monsters we've discovered so far?" she asked. "No," I admitted. "There's something around here that's partly invisible. I was thinking of them as killer ghosts." "Specters," she corrected offhand. "If we get out of this alive, I recommend Arlene for the job of an editor on a religious magazine." I had a sense of justice. "I haven't run into them yet," she added. "And some flying skulls. What should we call those?" "Flying skulls." "Right, what do you want to call them?" "Flying skulls, you lame brain. Call them as you see them." I found out she hadn't run into any of the mysterious blue spheres either. So far, the only good thing to come out of the gate. I had a feeling that before this was over, there would be much more of naming of names. Now it was back to business. Lunchtime was over. It was a brief rest. We needed real sleep. We needed to find somewhere secure so we could take turns sleeping and watch standing. And we needed real food. Something feels weird about this place, she said. Something about Deimos was way creepier than Phobos. The place was colder, but that wasn't it. The odors were about the same, but a bad taste seemed to go with it. Maybe we were closer to the source of the sour lemon stench that hung around with the zombies. Whatever it was, a cloying odor underrode everything, something very slowly rotting. I hate looking at it, I answered her. If lesser demons were in charge of the other Martian moon, then old Nick himself had drawn the blueprint here. The skulls were starting to get on my nerves. They were everywhere, all different sizes and shapes. Always more evil than a normal human skull. As we explored, the color we noticed most was red, darkening into the shade of rare steak. The little voice wanted to know why it wasn't getting hotter. Red was hot. Hell was supposed to be hot. The floor became moist with the hated ooze, not yet deep enough to require slogging through a river of the stuff. I wondered if Arlene and I were exploring the great intestine of something so gigantic I was going to have a hard time ripping out its guts. It seemed like the deeper we went into hell, the closer we got to the life force. Screw that, the Martian moons were more appealing as desolate rocks exposed to the cold of space. Bad news, said Arlene, pointing at a teleport platform at the end of a corridor. We had no choice. Use it or go back. Along with all those normal maps I wanted, I now wished for a map showing where all these grids connected up. How many shopping days before Christmas? Somebody's got to do it, Arlene. Do what? Recon these teleport things. She placed a firm hand on my shoulder. Nice of you to volunteer, Corporal. Rank before beauty. Pearls before swine, I was about to delegate PFC. Pearls before swine, period. I was about to delegate PFC. Better reading, thank you. I looked around. The layout's different here than on Phobos. Looking back, I observed the vista of emptiness we had walked through to get to this point. I had the feeling that the walls were squirming when I didn't look at them. More dead ends. I don't like jumping into a fire when I'm getting fat and happy in the frying pan. But we're humanity's vanguard, right? It sounded sarcastic, but I didn't mean it to be. We've got to find out what happened and communicate with someone up the chain. Whenever Arlene smiled, it felt warmer, nicer than when we'd just been palling around. War brings out something good in a certain kind of person. I didn't know about me, but I was sure about Arlene. Besides, she elaborated, best way to stay alive is to be on the offense. I'm coming right behind you. There was no one I'd rather have backing me up. Give me 30 seconds. They wouldn't be my famous last words, I'd hope. That the teleporter sensation, now that I was ready for it, was similar to the gate, but quicker, less disorienting. My clothes stayed on, and the weapons didn't disappear. I was ready to secure the beachhead. I'd arrived on a platform virtually identical to the one at the point of departure. I should have jumped off right away, but I was distracted by the sound of heavy pile drivers coming closer and closer. Jesus and Mary, I realized. They were footsteps. Wait a sec, are we where I think I am? Anyway, Chapter 18. Abruptly, I remembered where I stood. I leapt off the platform just in time. Arlene had counted the full 30 seconds before following. Clear? She asked as she sparkled into view. No, I answered. Listen to that. Light as a cat, she pounced down beside me. The thudding sound wasn't getting any softer. Poke your head around the corner, she suggested. I have a pretty good idea what's making all that racket. We took our time approaching the corner. Arlene gestured that she would go first. I don't argue with a lady. When she glanced back at me, her face was stern. You've been wondering what I call a demon, she said. So take a good look. I did. And as Gunny Goforth might have said, she wasn't just a whistling Dixie. A whole box of demons marched around atop a 2-story platform that looked as it might lower at any moment. One of the pinkies started making those pig sounds I found so disgusting. We're still in E2M1, turns out. But as I paid close attention to the anatomical details of this thing, I decided the Porker Anti-Defamation League might disagree with my description. These monsters were the most massively concentrated collection of muscle power in the whole zoo. They were about 6 feet tall, with mouths that looked like they could swallow Cleveland, and probably had. They were demons, all right. She had me there. So long as these guys were wandering the corridors, nothing else deserved the name. Their flesh was a dark pink. Arlene's nickname for them was Accurate. They didn't see us yet, but it didn't look as if we'd be going anywhere if we didn't deal with them. There were no other doors. Eventually that platform would have to lower so we could ride it up. They stamped around on short, stubby legs like shaved gorillas with horns and saw teeth. Do they have any projectiles? I asked Arlene. What do you mean? Fireballs, lightning, anything like that. They don't throw anything at you. She noticed my body relax a little. Don't let it fool you, she warned. They're deadly if you get anywhere near them. Can we pop them from down here? I asked. Not likely. You'd need concentrated force, like a 458, Weatherby or 12 gauge at 10 feet. I saw an imp go after a demon and the pinky took 3 fireballs in the face and swallowed the imp whole. It burped out bloody spines. Data point, imps and demons, like imps and zombies, don't get along. Fly, if we're going to progress, we've got to lower that platform. There's no other way to kill them with what we've got. I'd noticed I'd been leaning on against something hard and metallic. It was another skull switch, just begging to be flicked. I started reaching for it, but Arlene butted my hand away with the shotgun. That hurt. You don't know what that's going to do, she protested. I can't help it. I'm a born lever puller. I flicked the tongue. With a loud groan, the platform lowered like an elevator. The demons wandered off. They snuffled their pig sounds and evidently scented us, for they made a beeline. A beeline. Jeez. As they came for us, we scudded back around the corner. The demon didn't seem able to run, but they could power walk with that thud, thud, thud pounding through our skulls. Arlene and I both had shotguns and a serious attitude problem towards demons. I found their open mouths an irresistible target. The first one ate my powder, and that back of its head opened up like a watermelon. Watermelon! I've lost my place now. There is always something to say for close range. Arlene took hers out with a well-placed blast to the chest. If we were acting like a team with our backs to the wall, the Pinkies were dying as individuals marching forward, two abreast to receive their quota of shotgun death. The corpses piled up, providing sufficient time for us to reload and do it again. As an added bonus, none of the monsters made that snuffling pig sound. They were too busy roaring as they died. The roaring was loud, but it was the mark of their defeat. I started feeling good about my bloody work. Like shooting drunks in a barrel, I said to Arlene. Don't get cocky. She was right. Hubris. The ranks of the enemy finally diminished. We'd stumbled into a finite number and we were using up our demons fast. About as fast as our shotgun shells. Don't discount them, Arlene warned me. I wasn't about to discount her experiences. So long as you can keep them at a safe distance, this is alright. But I saw what happened when a buddy got his arm bitten off, and then it ate his head. He avoided being a zombie, only to wind up as demon food. Good things come to an end, even in a paradise like Demos. A bullet came very close to ending the career of yours truly. This tipped me off that someone was shooting at me. Look out! I shouted at Arlene, but she was already down, crouching behind the wall of demon bodies. During the precious seconds I spent saving myself from whoever was playing sniper, the last demon charged like a runaway bulldozer. I turned to find myself staring into a meter-wide maw. I thought I knew what a bad smell was before that moment. A square mile of human cesspool might come close. The odor was so bad it was like a weapon. My eyes watered so I could hardly see. Arlene shouted something, but I couldn't make out her words. She was busy with problems of her own. The sniper was still at it. One of those bullets, clearly meant for Arlene or me, connected with the back of the demon. It had the same reaction as a human being would have, if stung by a mosquito. While it tried to stretch at its back, and I wondered how it could accomplish such a task without ripping itself to ribbons, I swung the shotgun back into action. The target came forward and the bore of my weapon literally went down its gaping maw. I pulled the trigger. My eyes filled with the stinking monster blood. Not a desirable state of affairs when trying to avoid the persistent rifleman. I could hear Arlene through shouting, "That's the last of 'em," as her shotgun finished speaking for her. She had to be speaking about the demons. I could still hear the ping-ping of the rifle over my head.
Apologies.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm alive.
Oh, good. You can take over soon. My throat's dying.
Oh my god, how far are we?
Almost at chapter 19.
Oh my god, we were at like 16 when I left.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
But it was.
Where are you? I'll take over. I don't know what the fuck's going on, so I'm just gonna jump into this blind and pretend I know what's happening.
I'm just gonna finish the chapter off, just a couple more pages.
Okay.
But it was a relief to know that no pinkish mouths would chew my tender epidermis. Oh yeah, he mentioned watermelon. That was the next fruit.
I saw watermelon. I didn't want to say anything. I tried to word search where melon was because I got lost and I saw watermelon.
Looks like Jobo Fett will give you the skinny if you look at chat.
Oh man, yeah, give me the lowdown.
Arlene crawled.
What? There was? What?
Oh
Really?
yeah, no.
Okay.
They were just naked and bloody.
Okay, that's where we left off.
Yep. Arlene crawled over to me and started rubbing the blood out of my eyes. I could manage that on my own. I just hadn't gotten around to it. Spread out, I ordered. Don't make one target. She didn't argue with my superior combat experience. She rolled away without a word while I finished clearing my vision. Whoever was trying to shoot at us had taken a break, probably just to reload. I was certain it wouldn't last. He had the high ground, beyond where the platform had been. We needed to alter the situation in our favor immediately. "Platform!" I shouted, then charged the lowered lift. It had its own switch. When I flipped which I flipped. The lift started up, and Arlene finally realized what was happening. She ran and leapt, barely catching the edge. I pulled her up. We crouched back to back and took a little trip. On the next level...
Whoa. Sorry. That means that they're playing Z-Doom. Nice.
Yeah, what the heck? Crouching? Right? That's not accurate at all. On the next level, we rounded a corner and came face to... Well, you couldn't call it a face, really. We ran right into another demon. I didn't know about Arlene, but I found the situation very annoying. We'd just been through all that. We were so close to that. As it charged, I fell on my butt and fired a round between his legs. This staggered the demon, and Arlene finished the job, plugging it head on and killing it good and proper. Now we could return to the more traditional task of trying to find out who was shooting at us. Past the platform, we saw two doors. Exchanging glances, we approached. One had a blue border and the other had a red border. Of course, they were both locked. I missed my rockets. I extracted my blue key card and inserted it into the proper slot, swiping it across the mag reader. The door opened with a clean, whistling hydraulic sound. At the other end was a teleport. Demos had a thing for teleports, all right. The lady or the tiger? Asked Arlene. What? A story I read once. We've got a red door and a teleport. Which one? Yeah, too bad we don't have a red key. Hellfly, all you had to do was ask. She produced a key card and presented it to me. Arlene liked to play when working. I found it in a secret room while waiting for you to rescue me, she said with a wink. I'll pick the lady, I said, and started to insert the red key. Marine training comes in handy. I heard something on the other side of the door, and there was nothing wrong with Arlene's ears either. I swiped the key through the slot, then skipped to the side, scattergun ready. Arlene took the opposite side. The moment the door opened, she discharged a shell, killing a zombie on the other side. He was holding a shotgun just like ours. He wasn't the sniper. The zombie standing next to him had a sig cow, and I wasted him. We cleaned the room, each covering 270 degrees. The room was really more of a walk-in closet. It was empty of more zombies, but I was already worried about something else. If one with the rifle had been shooting at us, then had ducked in here, it had all the signs of an ambush, but zombies didn't think. An ambush suggested tactical thinking. Thinking! I hadn't yet an opportunity to confide in Arlene my suspicions of an overall mind guiding the invasion, using a great number of mindless opponents against a few human survivors to learn our limits. She probably wasn't in the mood for a quiet, analytical discussion right then. There was too much blood on me. Now it was the lady's turn to find a switch. The room was flooded with clean white light. We had found a treasure chamber, medical supplies, more comrades, and ammunition, lots of it. Best of all was another of the handheld video things. Fly, you know what this is? Exclaimed Arlene in excitement. I let her tell me. It's a computer map of the entire floor plan. The medical supplies allowed me to return the favor. The favor, in scare quotes, Arlene had done to me. She'd been winged by the sniper, jeez. She wasn't carrying any bullets around with her, but one had grazed her shoulder, and she had other cuts and bruises from our last battle. I'm your doctor now, I said. Eyeing the self-heating tins of food and coffee, she sized me up through slitted eyes and said, I'd rather you were the cook. Chef, I corrected her. And what's the difference anyway? Between a cook and a chef? No, between a doctor and a cook. You win. Feed me, fly. I bit my tongue.
What?
Doctoring first. She didn't argue, but continued working on the computer map as I tended her wounds. I found a tube of the same cream she'd used on me, but she didn't grimace. I'd used the hypo to inject the antiviral, but she never flinched. She really was a better man than I. We didn't have any disagreement until I insisted we get some sleep. You've got to be kidding, Fly. I'm not about to close my eyes and lie down in a rotting pile of zombie corpses. We can carry them out and pile them in front of the door. Oh, great, an announcement that we're in here. Alright, I'll throw them onto the last teleport platform. We'll throw them. As simple as that, sweet reason had prevailed. The job took 20 minutes. We didn't bother with the teleporter. We spread them like speed bumps among the demons. Maybe visitors would think they had killed each other. Then we enjoyed our first real meal together. The snack had only kept us going. This was a veritable feast by comparison. I insisted that she sleep first. She'd been on the go longer than I. While I was still being nursemaided by the Rons, she was at risk in battle up to her eyeballs in demon guts. She would sleep first, whatever it took. Turned out all it took was getting her to put her head down, just for a moment. I let her sleep for 4. When it was my turn, I went out like a drained tall boy. She woke me with a gentle hand on my shoulder and a beautiful face to appreciate. We'd both been too exhausted for nightmares. We were living them. I hated to leave the room the same way I'd felt about the Phobos lab infirmary. No, that was wrong. This room was better than that. I'd shared the time with a woman whose survival turned my universe from empty muck back into gold. Blinking away the pieces of sleep, I slung the sig cow across my back and we returned to the blue door and again faced the teleporter. Same routine as last time? I asked. No, let's go together. Why not? What the hell? We found ourselves in a room with no doors, no windows, and one of Arlene's big pink demons. Mine, I called, and pounded a shell before Arlene could agree. I have a feeling there's plenty to go around, she said. I was almost starting to like the pink bastards. Their lack of projectile weaponry made them favorites in my book. Of course, I hadn't seen them chow down on a comrade the way Arlene had. I took point, positively greedy for my next demon kill. I moved well ahead of Arlene. Oh, fly hubris. Hubris, hubris, hubris. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Turning one of those treacherous corners so common in both Phobos and Deimos, I stepped right into the Wizard of Oz. What else could you call a giant floating head?
What's with all those heads? I don't know. I got nothing for that.
Your turn.
Yeah, but you would probably just call it a giant floating head, you know.
Sure.
Call it what it is. Don't pussyfoot around it. Chapter 19. This head wasn't handsome enough to be a movie star. Its grotesque skin was made of millions of squirming, knotted, blood-red worms stretched over a huge, inflated balloon. For an instant, I thought of the floating blue sphere. Oh, is this a Cacodemon?
I think it is.
It's a Cacodemon.
He's at the end of E2M1 finally.
By the way, I guess we're done with Doom Nukem for the voices.
I was, just because my throat's dying. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I don't think I can Doom Nukem anymore. I need more voice practice, unfortunately.
Alright.
So I'm gonna pass for the moment.
By all means.
Staring into the single red eye of this floating pumpkin. Oh my god, pumpkin!
Pumpkin!
Yeah!
There it is. It wasn't the next fruit, but it showed up.
Of course, he would call a cacodemon a pumpkin. That kind of makes sense. What the fuck?
Well,
Floating pumpkin with a tube for a mouth. I doubted it would make me feel like 1,000,000 years old. Maybe. I dived sideways as the pumpkin... Is just gonna call it a pumpkin forever now.
I hope so.
Please tell me. I dived sideways as the pumpkin spit a ball of lightning out the tube mouth, burning my scalp and hair as it sailed past. It exploded against the wall, producing 1,000,000 slivers of blue flickering electricity that had every hair on any part of my body standing at attention. Mary Mother of God! I cried. Another one that shoots stuff! I ran back toward Arlene, shouting, "Run! Run! Run!" with pain and surprise still fresh. I couldn't think of anything else to do. But the floating head hadn't been in Arlene's face. She was still in control. The red ball floated around the corner, and she let it have a blast from behind. It rebounded from the blast, roaring in pain, then slowly turned to face her. While it did, I caught hold of myself. I blasted the floating pumpkin from my ankle. Yes, God damn it.
What an idiot.
From my ankle. As it turned back to me, Arlene skated to the side and blasted it again. Now we both knew what to do. We dropped naturally into a standard light drop tactic move. Fire, move again, fire again. The ball did a lot of bouncing. Whatever life force kept it going hadn't left it yet, but we kept firing. Then, it died the messiest monster death I had seen so far. One moment the ball was bouncing against the walls. The next, there came a spray of sticky blue goo that smelled like caramelized pumpkin pie. What? Really? It's a giant pumpkin and it actually smells like pumpkin pie.
What an idiot!
Fuck you, Ryder. God damn it. And sounded like an overripe squash. Squash! Dropped 10 stories. I seriously considered losing the lunch I had struggled so hard to ingest. Hoorah! Exulted Arlene, smashing pumpkins into small pieces of putrid debris.
Oh man, I didn't expect that.
Pumpkins reference. There it is.
It's a cheat code reference. Spiz
Hey.
popped. It
Yep,
spiz
all right.
popped.
Yep.
Smashing
It's
pumpkins,
done.
small piles, putrid debris. All right.
So what? That whole section of this chapter was just set up to reference Smashing Pumpkins. Good job.
Yep.
Now watch it never come up again.
Yeah.
All right. What the hell was that? I was going to ask you the same question. I couldn't take my eyes off the disgusting, deflated remains. We should have been expecting brand new monsters, but this floating beach ball thing was so weird, it meant anything was possible. That scared the hell out of me. It meant we might run into something indestructible, or at least unkillable. What, do you want to call this one? Arlene asked. I'd forgotten our little game. It was a good question, but my mind was blank. Call it a pumpkin, I suggested at last. Arlene wasn't impressed. She wrinkled her nose as if smelling Limburger cheese. I didn't mean that as a serious name, Fly. We need something more frightening. All right, then you name it. No dice, Fly. First person who sees a monster has to name it. That's the rule. I was about to demand to know why she got to make the rules. I stifled myself in time. Of course she made the rules. She was the female. Then it's a pumpkin, Arlene. I put my foot down. Maybe I'll get lucky and she'll dislike my name enough that the rule will change. We secured the corridor. Oh my god, they're gonna call it fucking pumpkins. God. It was monster-free. It wasn't ooze-free, but the stuff didn't look deep until pretty far along. Ahead lay a small ocean of the stuff with an exit on the other end. Best way to get through shallow goo is jogging, she said. Eats away your boots, but you'll last longer. Sure beats swimming in it, I agreed. Don't be silly. That would kill you. I made a mental note to brag to Arlene about my swim. Oh yeah, he actually went swimming.
Yep.
I searched the immediate vicinity for any life-giving blue spheres, but we were alone in the sea of green. So what does your computer map say? Arlene zoomed the room we were in, and we noticed a couple of switches and a teleporter. We threw the first switch, and the stairs slid into view like shark fins rising from a tranquil sea. We hoofed it to the next switch, then went straight to the teleporter. We did not pass go. We did not collect 200 monsters. My turn to go first, she declared. I knew better than to argue. I'll count to 30. Her trim form faded from view, and I started the count. 28, 29, 30. Weapon up, I followed, ready for almost anything. Except what I actually saw. A whole bank of shiny, new, undamaged radios. Bank is open, said Arlene. I guess they missed this room, I said, checking the corners for possible ambush. There was nowhere to hide, and we seemed to be alone. But I didn't let my guard down. I let down my guard. These visible ghosts were reason enough not to completely trust the old eyeballs. Arlene fired up one of the radios, then whooped for joy when it hummed and came online. But no matter what frequency she typed, we heard nothing but crashing ocean static. Arlene took her time running carefully by 5 megahertz jumps the entire spectrum. Then she tried the same procedure with different radios. The results were the same. Fly, this doesn't make sense, she said finally. They couldn't be blocking the signal somehow, I asked. These antennas stick half a kilometer off the surface of Deimos. Whatever's blanking the signal must be enveloping the entire moon. Time to put the thinking cap on. Or put on the thinking cap. I even paced. Bleh. Arlene? I said at last. Every radio I came across on Phobos was smashed. Same here. Now, here is a vitally important communications room they couldn't possibly miss. You're assuming an intelligent enemy here, she said. There has to be, Arlene. Phobos and Deimos are part of the same invasion. Why leave this room intact, but not the ones in Phobos? Fly, Deimos was abandoned 4 years ago. I was present when the Marines picked up everything and left. Budget cuts, reduction in force, and a lack of tactical imagination sent us packing. I nodded, sitting on the floor with my back to the wall, at an angle where I had an unobstructed view of the door. A big mistake, I said. She was on a roll. What if the aliens invaded back then, or some time ago, weeks, months, or longer? They could take their time spreading through the facility, and there'd be no reason to smash the radios here on alien-controlled Deimos. We listened to the symphony of white noise. So, why can't we reach anyone now, Arlene? When enough crazy stuff happens all at once, the imagination is free to float off like that damned pumpkin. I didn't know if it was inspiration or not, but I asked the trillion-dollar question. Maybe Deimos is no longer in orbit around Mars? I was so used to the way she liked to watch me through slitted eyes that when she stared at me wide-eyed, she looked like a different person. I never thought of that, she said. It would explain Deimos vanishing from the screens. I just assumed it was destroyed somehow. Having started down the twisting path, I ran to keep up. You said Deimos is so small that gravitational effects are negligible. It's more like a giant spaceship than a planet. We stared at each other. Inspiration can be catching. But how do you remove an entire moon instantaneously, she mused, even when as small as Deimos? I don't spend all my time on target practice working out. Sometimes I read. By shifting it into a different dimension? She smiled. Fly, you've been watching too many sci-fi tridios. Tridios?
Tridios.
Is that correct? Is that correct in your book?
Yeah, it says Tridios.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was a weird typo on my end.
It's future entertainment. They
God.
watch Tridios on YouTube. It's still
God.
YouTube in the future. They
What
just
in
watch
the
Tridios now.
What in the flippity flapjack is a tridio? Good grief. Well, anyways.
Didn't even begin.
I don't know about that, AS. But special effects will never be convincing again after facing the real thing. What makes you think we'll ever see another movie? Neither of us spoke for a bit. Then Arlene continued. So, suppose they've turned Deimos into a giant spaceship, she said. Where would they be taking us? Back to their homeworld? With us as a prime specimens? I said, not feeling the least bit comfortable about the idea. Whatever the destination, I've got a bad feeling about this. Any destination is probably bad for us, she agreed. We could be in some kind of artificial wormhole on the way to hell. As if this weren't hell already! Besides, I'm not religious, Fly. I didn't go to any parochial school. My mind's eye conjured up old images from the Chapel of Mary and Martha. Sister Lucrezia, who taught us Dante's Inferno, acted as if she'd just returned from a special tourist class trip through the infernal regions and couldn't wait to share her bad news for modern man. One July weekend at St. Malachy summer camp, I saw her in full regalia, standing up in a rowboat and pushing off from the dock with a long oar. I thought I'd seen a vision of Charon the boatman, ferrying lost souls across the river Styx. I doubt any monster here could beat her out for the job. I was half convinced I was already on a one-way trip to the real place. But the idea that Arlene was coming along drove me mad with anger. Blech. I wasn't about to let one stinking demon claw touch that noble soul of hers. Arlene stood up from the useless radios. I've been trying to get a fix on the enemy, some handle. But all I'm doing is drawing blanks. I've had the experience of running down corridors before, she confided, with dozens of armed men out for my blood. Sometimes your best chance for survival is to go right into the rooms and corridors they hold and destroy whatever they came for. We made our way into the embassy vault and burned all our important documents. And the KPLA left. You know what I'm talking about? I'm glad you got out of there, AS. It was a real hellhole. Yeah, I wouldn't miss this hell pit for the world. I stared at the radios myself. Yep, that's a radio, all right, I thought, which is about as far as my education in electronic communications gear went.
Well,
why on earth, on Deimos, could the Corps give up such a strategic position as this station? By executive order number whatever, the Marines had military jurisdiction on all extraterrestrial planetary surfaces. The Navy had deep space, the Air Force had atmospheric, and the Army had Earth itself. Mars, Phobos, and Deimos were surely ours to the bone. The only reason I could imagine us giving it up was if the other services conspired to cut our space ops budget, with pretty disastrous consequences. Wonder if anybody felt shame about that, or would if we lived to tell anyone. Round of ammo for your thoughts, she said. Nothing important. Politics back on the old home planet. At least there's no politics here. Unless you count that swastika. You saw it too. I was beginning to wonder if I dreamed that damned crooked cross. That's not politics. It's a bad joke. You think they put it there to scare us, huh? The way they... what do you call it? Rework the physical buildings gives me the creeps. Nothing from Earth scares me after what I've seen, Arlene. What's next? A hammer and sickle? A what? Never mind. You're too young to remember. I'll make you a bet that we don't find any other symbols from the home planet. We shook hands. You'll lose, she said. You are thinking too much about politics. I win if we find any symbols, including religious symbols. There have been plenty enough of those. Damn, you're right. I lose. All the Satan stuff. She could sound like a professor when she wanted to. Maybe the demons, the aliens, were confused by Hollywood into thinking that the swastika is a satanic symbol.
well,
It sure seems suspiciously like somebody had an official list of things that scare Westerners. Like they knew it would be seen by UAC workers and Marines, not by Native American Indians or Japanese. Wonder if they'd change the symbols for different humans. Say, using the letters Kyo Ori Oni if they were invading the Nippon Electric Space Station. In any case, the religious symbols are terrestrial, so you lose, Corporal. Now is my turn to grin. Well, Arlene, if you're going to lose a bet, it's good to find out before you set the amount. She gave me a playful punch in the shoulder. We started out while I massaged the numbness out of my arm. At the next inverted cross we passed, I'd pay anything she wanted, within reason. Chapter 20. The video map showed us how to get to the central elevator for all the Demos installation. We were very near. All that separated us from our goal was a wall.
Oh,
The wall had a switch.
what luck!
Yeah, right? A full body boss relief of a cloven hoofed alien. And it wasn't his tongue that required flicking. My face flushed. You'd better take this one, PFC Sanders. Wait, are you? No. Bullshit. Really? It's a fucking dick lever? Ugh. Come on, Fly. You said you were a lever puller.
Well,
And here I thought you were a born... Oh, yeah, here you go. And here I thought you were a born lever puller. Arlene flicked the switch. The blue-gray wall cranked down a slit in the floor, revealing a spacious lift. Deluxe service, Arlene said, pointing at the labeled bank of elevator buttons. We'd made it through the containment area. Below us was the refinery, then Demos Lab, then Command Center. Then the Sentry Hall, and 3 levels below that, which were unlabeled. Basement? Skip the crap, I said. Yeah, well, maybe. Maybe. Makes sense to me. Every time that door slides open, we run the risk of being stormed by giant vampire slugs from the planet Pornos, or being machine gunned to death by Nazi Schutzwaffen. Fly. These lifts didn't work too well even back when we had people maintaining them. They got stuck all the time. If the sensors detected anything in the shaft, you'd stop at the floor above. If a door was open somewhere, the whole elevator could freeze. Go ahead and push the basement button. I'll bet you a month's pay we won't make it more than a couple of levels. Then we'll have to find another lift somewhere. I looked hard at her and snorted. You're so full of good cheer. Well, ready or not, here goes nothing. Here went nothing, all right. I pushed the button. We started with a jerk and ground downward, skewing back and forth dangerously. As we descended toward the refinery, I saw that the lift didn't take us there directly, but to a warehouse section we'd have to pass through first. In the distance, we had an actual view of the refinery through large gaping holes in the floors and ceilings. Some kind of fighting had gone on here. We had descended some 50 meters. What we could see of the refinery was laid out like an open maze. It was possible to see in the distance an expansive pink, moving objects that looked like fleshy cubes or blocks. I hoped they weren't alive, weren't the next creatures on the hit parade. They were gigantic, reminding me of the organic ladder and the pulsing walls back on Phobos. Then we'd moved past the point where we could see the refinery. Our descent brought us to a more normal scene. Normal, in this case, meant a warehouse area stuffed with UAC boxes to their height of 12 feet or more and so densely packed as to create their own pseudo corridors. Oh god, I know exactly where we are. Fuck.
Yep.
We'd noticed a number of humanoid figures with the familiar brown hide and white spikes scurrying for cover. Back in Imp Country again. The lift stopped. Not quite all the way to the floor. We had to jump about 3 meters. Arlene peeked over the edge. You owe me a month's pay, Corporal Flaggart. Did I take the bet? I don't recall saying any such thing. Native American giver. What? What? I don't... Whatever. We hopped out onto the ugliest puke green marble I'd ever seen, but it was still good to have something solid underfoot. Alright, PFC Sanders. Let's do this by the numbers. Sure, Fly. So, which box is the number 1? And how come we never do stuff by the letters? I threw a withering glance, like an older brother to a pesky sister. We were ready to rock and roll. Fighting demons had spoiled me. I liked an enemy that didn't shoot back. We popped through the warehouse like nobody's business, pulse galloping, keyed to an instant reaction. The refinery had its share of toxic ooze. We didn't pay it any mind, but so far, There were only a few sticky regions instead of slime beach. I looked for the barrels of the stuff, my favorite way of dealing with imps, but there were none. The first fireball missed us by a country click. The second came too close to Arlene to suit me, so after I killed the imp, I wasted ammo, and killed him again to teach him a lesson. They were smart enough to duck in and out of the natural defenses provided by the stacked boxes, but not enough to gang up on us or show any other sign of working together. None of these guys were talking. Still, there were a lot more of them than there were of us. One almost got me from behind. If he had a partner, I'd have been dead meat. Instead, Arlene slid in behind the both of us and used her bayonet, like a can opener. Busy as I was staying alive, I could appreciate the sheer grace of Arlene. Back to the wall of boxes, cradling her shotgun like a baby. Never mind dogs as man's best friend. With hand gestures, I indicated who would take which section. Another 15 minutes and we were back in the same place. Shield killed more than I had. The warehouse area had been cleared. I was tired enough to wish one of those magical blue spheres would make an appearance. I hadn't told her about that because it seemed too unbelievable, even in a place like this. But Arlene, the mind reader, had brought a small black case with her. It looked medical. I'd have to start calling her Doc. Oh my god, she found the Berserk pack.
Dun dun dun.
Oh. Opening it, she produced a syringe filled with a clear liquid, labeled Cardiac Augmentation Stimulation Unit. Oh god, that's so boring.
Well,
I just want to replace the item pickup description text in Doom now to say that every time. I held it for a second, then carefully passed it back to her as if it were a loaded weapon. "Can't believe I found this," she said. "It's synthetic adrenaline to be used on patients who are in the throes of cardiac arrest." What would it do to you or me?" She paused, biting her lip again. "In a normal person, the adrenaline rush would make you super strong. There's a drawback, though. It could also give you
tachycardia.
Tachycardia and kill you."
I've been watching House. They use that word a lot.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what tachycardia is, but I'm going to assume it involves, like, your veins blowing up. Just say no to having an edge," I commented, taking the black package and its contents and adding it to my collection. "Fly, maybe we should toss it. That stuff could be too much of a temptation. Hey, if push comes to shove, we can inject it in one of them with it, right up their monster fundaments, all in the interest of science." The only unlocked door led to... God, you're fucked up, Fly. Really? The only unlocked door led to a huge green marble chamber with a collection of weird red pillars. Pulsing veins stretched around these pillars like living ropes. The sharp, cloying odor of perspiration combined with the sick, sweet stench of rotting meat. Oh my god, he got a boring, normal description.
Yeah, it's not fruit. What are you doing, Flynn?
God, I'm so alienated from Flynn Taggart now. What do I do? Sorry. I lost my place. That was so jarring.
Science, unlock doors, marble.
Yeah, I'm just looking
ropes.
for my place on the page. Here we go.
Mechanical stuff.
Oh, yeah, mechanical stuff was fine with me. Even organic stuff like the arboretum? Arboretum, okay. But I didn't like that when they combined, and I couldn't tell where one part left off and the other began. The throbbing of the veins matched the throbbing in my head. I was almost grateful for the appearance of a number of imps. At least they took my mind off the architecture. Then, some more imps. And some more after that. Too much of a good thing. "Check your six, Fly," said Arlene. I looked behind me, across the room. Sure enough, even more snot-spitting spinies. My gratitude faded fast. I made out a dozen imps. I started the Donnybrook with the well-aimed shell. Between their fireballs and our shotguns, we had one serious firefight. I thought the pillars would catch fire, so thick were the red flames and black smoke. I killed 2. Arlene killed 3. The survivors were better than the previous imps at dodging behind the pillars, and even our shotgun extender mags were running dry. They forced us back into a corner, pinning us down. Mexican standoff time. I wanted to bail. Then I pumped the slide and locked. Nothing up my sleeve, nothing in my gun. Now what? Time to even the odds. Arlene was watching the imps, firing off a shot now and then, looking down at her mag window and frowning. I reached inside my vest, pulled out a hypodermic, and studied it. Oh shit.
Here it comes.
Intravenous? No, intramuscular. Well, that was easier at least. But could I actually do it? To myself? Jesus, what a dilemma. For a moment, it was like being back on Phobos. That needle bothered me more than flaming mucus in my face. Without question, the next scientific revolution should move beyond the need for needles. But more important, could I risk a heart attack if I had a bad reaction? Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I'm a Marine. Semper Fi, Mac. I gave myself the shot. At first, nothing. Then, the stuff stimulated my adrenal glands. And in a minute, I was filled with a red rage. The world turned crimson, and my breath was fire. My heart beat so fast that it spun in my chest like a gyroscope. I drew my bayonet from the webbing and bolted from the corner. If Arlene yelled after me, I didn't hear it. All that mattered was to kill, getting in tight and cutting the steak. Blood rare. God, how I loved it, blood, thick as red ink from a shattered paint stick. Communion wine splashing on the floors of eternity. Man, he gets poetic when he's pissed.
Yeah, jeez. Kinda.
Wow. Maybe he is Doom Guy after all. Fuck. Every motion was a target to strike. Flesh was too easy. Bone was the real work. The blade sticking in the cartilage, the cracking and crunching, inspiring me to greater efforts. I hardly noticed the blood splashing in my eyes. The world was already a red haze. Liquid salt was trivial pain as I swung my blade in the center of adrenal agony. The more I killed, the heavier the weight of my arms. But exhaustion spurred me to greater fury. I no longer saw the Chinese masked faces of the imps, only a blur. Their claws rent my flesh, but we were too tight for them to use their best weapon. Dimly, I realized that I was bleeding from many wounds. That was fine with me. Blood kept me warm. Theirs, mine, anyone's. Just so that I could continue to swing a blade and slay the bastards. Motion must be met with motion. An imp exploded in front of me before I could even reach it. Only one imp left now. Fly! A voice called my name near at hand. I hadn't expected any of these imps to speak, especially not in a high, almost feminine voice calling my name. I was so surprised that I hesitated for a moment, blade poised over the last imp. Fly! My vision began to clear. My arm was a bar of lead, my chest a sharp pain, as the old heart slowed to merely fast. The fury slowly lifted from me like a thick red Tridio theater curtain drawing back. The hazy shape before me grew solid and took on a familiar feature, Arlene's features. I was very glad I hadn't killed that last imp.
That would have been awkward.
Woo! Chapter 21. They're all dead. She reported. I mean, sorry. Are you alright, Fly? Thirsty, I croaked. My own canteen had split open during the fight, spilling its contents. She shared water from her supplies. Better? She asked. I nodded, utterly spent. I almost fell as she helped me out of the room. She set me down, held my arm. My mind still raced, but my body was exhausted. Arlene made me rest 20 minutes, then reluctantly helped me up so we could move on. We walked past the secure area, behind the pillar room, and faced another closed door. It was hardly worth kicking. On the other side was a shimmering floor of noxious slime, across which was a console with a blue key card. Doesn't look too promising, Arlene said. I was never optimistic where toxic goo was concerned, but my head was still flying from the adrenaline. A perfect recipe to make a volunteer. "I'll go," I said. "I could use the exercise. Jogging is just what my heart needs right now." "You need to rest, Fly." That was thoughtful of her. I appreciate her sentiments as I evaded her grasp and stepped into the gunk, my boots making shunk shoosh sounds, slowing me down and eating bit by bit through the thick soles. Then I stepped on something hard and felt it shift under me. Heavy machine sounds came up through the slime. I followed by something more substantial. A section of floor rose through the toxin. Staggering was not a good idea. I didn't want to fall down in this. I regained my footing as I saw a wire mesh platform rising to match a set of blue paneled lights directly overhead. I was just about to take steps when Arlene brushed past, turned, and stepped to the right to follow the path that was under those lights. As she ran out of the pathway, an odd thing happened. More wire mesh rose to meet her footsteps, corresponding to the lights. Above, winking like stars I hoped I would live long enough to see again. I followed her. A major improvement over the normal way of crossing the slime lands. Did any other spills have such shortcuts installed, I wondered? When we reached the island on the other side of the green ocean, Arlene said, "You may have something with the rats in the maze idea. No human would design this, except maybe a game show host." Game is right. I wonder if the entire moon has been reworked. She reached over and grabbed the blue keycard. We found a door with a pretty blue trim. The keycard popped it open. Inside, I whooped with pleasure to see my old buddy, the rocket launcher, with lots of little battery rockets as well as another AB-10 machine pistol. The body of an imp lay in a corner. "Think that one died of natural causes?" Arlene asked. "Unnatural, more likely." "Say," she said, "if imps are smart enough to talk, why don't they use weapons?" It was a good question. One of many that had started to gnaw at me. "Maybe it's because it wouldn't be fair," I said. "Excuse me?" Arlene's eyebrows shot skyward. "I must have misheard. It sounded like you said they don't use weapons because it wouldn't be fair." "Let me rephrase. It would be a fair test of our own defensive ability. The mastermind, whoever, whatever, wouldn't learn much except what we look like when we die, and God knows it already knows that well enough." After a moment of silent thought, Arlene whispered, "I don't like it, Fly. It makes me feel like we're being watched." "You think I'm paranoid?" "I didn't say I didn't agree. I just don't like the implications. That the whole invasion of the Martian moons is just practice. A war game. Just the prelude to... To what?" "We damn well better find out, Flynn Taggart." Arlene took the AB-10. I took the sweet darling that could kill minotaurs and open doors. We didn't run into any trouble on our way to the other lift on this level. It was clearly marked on the video map. Maybe that was because there was so much trouble in the refinery. There must be a law of conservation of Saurus. What the? Okay. But the buttons for all levels below the next were inoperative. It was a local shuttle only. Arlene made triumphant noises, but I reminded her that we never did have a bet on. "Only way out is down," I repeated, and pressed the button. Whatever Arlene said, I still thought my primary duty was to get her the hell out of hell. But at the moment, her path and my path were the same. We both needed to burn deeper into the nightmare. "I don't like the look of this place," said Arlene, as we stepped from the lift into a vine-covered hallway. "What's not to like? Rows of skulls, walls covered with squirming, writhing, fleshy ivy. Should be like high school by now." We gave the tendrils a wide berth. Looked like they might loop around our throats and strangle the life from us. "Fly," Arlene whispered. "I see another lift right through there." She pointed to the left, at a gap in the ivy on the side where I suddenly realized there was no wall, only the squirming expanse of, quote, plant life. "Uh-oh," I said. "There's more on the other side than a room with a lift in it. There were our old friends, the demons. Imps, too. We dropped back from the window while the imps began to hiss and heave flaming spitwads. Then my pal Arlene froze my marrow with a professionally calm voice in my ear. Fly, I think we're going to need the rocket launcher too. I was already getting ready to rock and roll when I turned to see a pair of giant floating pumpkins trapped in a cage ahead of us. I could have sworn that spot was empty when we first came here. Maybe the cage had been lowered just now. If it had been demons, we could have ignored them, but the bars were spaced far enough apart that the pumpkins had all the space they needed to fire their deadly ball lightning. There's no telling why these heads were locked up, but it meant no more security for us than caged machine gunners. The air crackled above us. Electrical discharge ran thousands of prickling little fingers down my head and back, and our hair stood at attention. Arlene looked like a goofball. Focusing my concentration on the single task of standing up and firing, I heard her shout, "I'll take R9," referring to the maddened imps and demons to our left, at the 9 o'clock position, ripping through the ivy. We ducked as the fireball seared the same area where the balls of lightning had played electric hairdresser. I wish the imps and pumpkins were only closer together so that the fireballs and lightning balls might cross paths and wipe out both monster lines. I nearly got my wish. Arlene opened up with the AB-10. When the imps returned fire, they hit their demon buddies. The rest was history. While demons swallowed imps, who did their best to give a horrible case of heartburn, I squeezed the firing ring, turned the pumpkin cage into an oven-to-bake pumpkin pie. "Are you all right?" I asked. I could tell from the way she was shaking her head that she hadn't been this close to a rocket explosion before. "As soon as the phone stops ringing between my ears," she answered. "Pack a wallop, don't they?" I was still worrying about the giant blocks of flesh as we skirted the cage and entered an empty gray room.
Hey, we're at the end of SNES Doom. We gotta put this on pause for a sec.
Okay.
We're at Dis. We're gonna go kill some spiders.
Yeah.
Alright, here goes.
Well,
And, oh yeah, the BFG shoots Baron balls now. It's a bit strange.
that's kind of cool.
Oh, and I
Dumb and
died.
weird, but oh.
Luckily, when you die in the SNES version, you don't pistol start. You get all your stuff. Apparently, the BFG works the same way. It just doesn't show the cool tracer effect. But that's the end. The end of SNES Doom.
Yay.
We can still finish out this chapter, though.
Alrighty. Alright, got it. They used to use a lot of chambers around here to crush ore and refine the liquid, Arlene explained. Be careful. Lots of dangerous equipment. Indeed, I could hear some heavy machinery really earning its keep right nearby. But what? No platforms or lifts, no rising staircases. Then, Arlene won the prize by looking straight overhead. "Holy ore crusher, Batman!" she yelped. The damned ceiling was descending on us. Not too fast, but fast enough. "Didn't I see this in a Tridio?" I asked, edging back the way we'd come. "It's just too Edgar Allan poetic," said Arlene. Ugh. We backed out before turning into grease spots. Now what? Hate to say it, Fly, but there ain't no other way to book. There must be a door or something in there. If we can find it and pop it before they have to scrape us up with a spatula. The ceiling hit bottom, then rose again, at the same stately pace. "We can hunt for another route past this garlic press," she said hesitantly, "but I'm sure this is the only direct route around to Sector 9, where we were looking through the ivy window at the other lift. At least, that's how I remember it from when I was posted here. Look, Fly, let me go in and hunt. I know what this place is like better than you." I hated the thought. Arlene was under the crushing ceiling while I waited outside, guarding, quote-unquote. But she had a point. Flashlight in one hand, Arlene ran to the opposite end of the room while the ceiling was still rising. She rubbed her palm gently across the smooth surface. "How are you doing?" My voice was strong enough to call out. "I can't find any switches," she called. Worried, I started pacing in front of the Poe chamber, a restless sentry. Arlene found nothing. But would you believe it? I triggered a motion sensor, causing a door to slide open near her. It was pure dumb luck. Come on, she shouted. The ceiling had reached the top and was descending again. I ducked my head like a halfback center, punching through the line and bolted across the room to the door, which had already begun to close as the ceiling fell. The door led to the room I'd seen from above, with huge fleshy cubes rising and falling, an alien mockery of the ore crushers. The blocks weren't just flesh, they were alive. 25 pink fleshy pumping platforms, completely covering a room, seemed more pointless than disgusting. They made high whining sounds like newborn infants. What the hell are they? I asked. Wonder if they can move those, or wonder if they can move out of those holes. Christ, I added. What do they do? Arlene edged closer to one block. She squatted and rose with it, following it down and up. This isn't just random flesh, Fly. This is muscle tissue. Human muscle tissue.
Gross.
Ugh. I approached another block. This is a heart or liver or something. I tracked along the edge of blocks. The last of the 5 blocks comprised convoluted ridges and furrows, folds in a grayish, spongy medium. Unless my grandma's been lying all these years, I said. Them there's brains, A.S. Yeah. We backed away. All right. Muscles, brains, some kind of organ meat. This suggests a pattern to you, Fly? Several. None of them pleasant. Are they farming meat? Human flesh? That's the best case scenario, Arlene. She looked at me with eyes widening. And the worst case? I smiled grimly. They're farming humans. They're getting the hang of growing human cells because they're trying to genetically engineer zombie soldiers better than the pathetic ones they have now. We watched the blocks rise and fall a couple more minutes. Then Arlene upspake. Really? Just never seen that word before. Corporal? Yes, PFC. Permission to hose their research. Permission enthusiastically granted. You have something in mind, Arlene? She did. There was a row of torches along the wall we'd entered by. We blew them out, then appended them, spilling the oil as we'd hoped from block to squishy block. At the far end, I let Arlene light the ceremonial cigarette lighter. It was her idea, after all. We let the 5 fleshy blocks joyously inflame.